7:06, Joel.
Okay, well, I'll sit right here.
You might as well.
Yeah.
Just,
He'll
he'll be in 2 minutes.
Okay, Police Chief Kevin Gibbs for the first draft of the ordinance regarding discharge of firearms.
Yeah. So, the copy, you would all have received an electronic copy, then I made another copy. I was working on it, correcting BB guns, making sure that, fixing the, BSA, Selectboard one word. So you can see a couple things I was questioning. That's why my pen scratch is on there, but.
Yeah, I gotta get one. Go through all this and put it back together, not the same order today. So Kevin, you're up. Everybody found their copy?
So I just found a couple things, Kevin, fixing the 24 VSA, 24 VSA, to that, and up here at the top you have, but I'll give them to you later.
Okay.
And then, select board one word and a couple things like that.
According to my spell check.
No, spell check
spell
does
check
not
doesn't
like
like
it.
It does spell check doesn't like it, but.
No.
Well, spell check
Sometimes I leave it, sometimes I let it fix it.
Yeah. Mhm. No, you have to,
So what do you want to do, Joel? You want to just go around with their
Yeah, if you got any,
comments?
I don't have any comments, so. Michelle, you have any through the ordinance?
A lot of questions, I guess, a lot of concerns. BB guns or similar weapons, says bows, slingshots, or crossbows, like cork gun, potato gun, I mean, you got the gamut there. Is it anything that's gonna be a projectile?
Well, that's why I say this includes but is not limited to. That way the stuff that you forget are also included, but it's, the definition is any device, that's why I use device instead of weapon or something like that, from which a missile or projectile is hurled by a device other than using explosive charge. So basically, it's the same definition as weapon, except that we're talking about, you know, like a crossbow or,
Right.
you know.
I get that, but like, kids playing with cork guns, I mean, they play with them all the time, or, you know, the little
Yeah,
Nerf balls that they shoot, you
yeah.
know?
Like they do it, I think that some classes nowadays, they do in the spring, that they measure the
The physics
projectile.
class, yeah.
Physics, yeah.
Yeah.
Peter, thank
Potato
you.
guns just
Yeah.
before Halloween, cabbage night.
No, they do it there and measure the,
yeah.
That's what they used to do.
I think Michelle, having done a lot of these types of things, and Kevin's point is well taken, if you miss one, you're gonna get called on it. So the more generic you can make it and use some sense as a police officer when you're dealing with it.
No, I get that, I
Yeah.
get that, I'm just saying, I mean, is it gonna be literal for people to the point where kids can't play with their, you
Well,
know,
I
their
think-
toys and, you know?
I think
that
that's
type of
why
thing?
we need to have some faith in our police officers that they're going to.
A cork gun, I can't imagine, most times they've got a string on them so that they can retrieve
That's the one
them.
I have.
Oh, you're right.
This guy gets too far away.
In most cases, I mean, unless we put signs up all over the village, that is, if this ordinance were to be passed, we would have to go to any place where there's a complaint, and we would have to educate the citizen on the ordinance. So we wouldn't be, you know, we wouldn't be going through and writing the kid a ticket for, you know, having a potato gun, unless they were going around like trying to smash out car windows or take out
Right.
streetlights.
Okay, so I have another question, which maybe I'm just not reading this right because I can't understand it. On the exemptions and exclusions, it says, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth line down, fifth or sixth line down, it says, where similar weapon by law enforcement officers in the performance of their duties or to include the owner, tenant, members of their family, or invitees from discharging firearms, BB guns, or similar weapons. I'm just trying to figure out what you're trying to say here. I'm not sure that I.
Basically, police officers are exempt, and if you're doing so on your property, as long as the other restrictions aren't there, you can. You know, you can have your friends over if you live out in the middle of nowhere and you're not within distance from a neighbor's house, and discharge gun. And because what I saw in a lot of the ordinances, they wanted to address unsafe use of those weapons. Like if I'm, you know, if I'm up by the Merritt farm and I'm taking a rifle and I'm shooting it in the air to
Right.
celebrate, you know, some holiday, and those rounds are going to go somewhere. That's the kind of thing that's talking about.
So then, if I'm correctly reading this, you're prohibited from discharging a firearm, BB gun, whatever, on or within 500 feet of any townhome property and or within 1,000 feet of any school in the town of Bristol or 500 feet from another person's residence.
Yeah, I got those distances from both state and federal law. Talked to a resident just recently who has a firing position on his property, and he believes that 500 feet, if the ordinance were to be passed with a 500 foot, and because the 500 feet comes from the safety zone the state had. If we were to, because I would probably want to recommend that we reduce that to 200 feet, because in certain cases, in this particular individual's case, he believes 500 feet would put him shooting weapons at a safe location, but within that distance of his neighbor's house.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, because, I mean, I see this in the village, okay, because most houses are within 500, certainly within 500 feet of each other. But if you get to our spot, I have 10 acres, but 500 feet, I can't shoot anywhere on my property because there's houses on this end and this end, and there's only like 200 feet between, you know, my property is like 200 by 1,000 or whatever it is.
Well, this is just
So,
a draft. I think
yeah.
when I draft it, 500 feet to me is, it's quite a distance. But when I
Right.
talk to an actual resident who explained to me that I've got a position that I've set up for firing weapons, and it's probably more than 200 feet from my neighbor's house, but it's certainly not more than 500 feet from my neighbor's house. So he had a concern.
Right. I mean, that's my big concern, is that, it's really limiting not just people within the village, it's limiting people within the whole town.
What I'm hoping to do with this is establish a safe zone around houses that people don't have to go through a whole bunch of hoops to set up. A safety zone that the state requires. You have to post it, everything like that. I think we can play with the distance so that it works for town residents, but this was just a draft. I used what the state has for safety zones and what the federal law has for schools.
I looked at Fish and Wildlife, and that's what they said, fish, 500 feet.
And you could certainly adjust that to make it a little more reasonable in the town. I just used it as a draft.
I mean, that's my concern.
Most of the
limiting
ordinances
people.
I saw had restrictions on town-owned property. They had it in, I saw one that referenced zoning stuff, like high
High-density residential.
Right.
Oh,
those
instead
kinds
of
things,
going by,
those kinds of things.
Going by
That's an
distance, yeah.
But this was, I started with what I found was one of the most basic and simple ordinances, and kind of went through this pile that's in front of me and looked at what the different ordinances say to see if there's anything that I wanted to add to it. And again, the distances came from both state and federal laws and
Yep.
regulations.
I guess that's my biggest concern, is really the limitations of who and how, who and where, and, people that have property and have spots that they can, limit them that if it's a 500-foot zone.
Yeah, I'm thinking now, based on the conversation I had with at least one citizen, that 500 feet is probably a bit much.
well, I wonder about looking at the zoning map, because that would be interesting, right? High-density residential takes up the majority of the village. And then you could look at, village mixed, anyone where the setbacks are really close. But I'm not sure, maybe that's too specific and you wouldn't want someone to have to look at a zoning map. I'm not sure what you're.
Well, again, we would have to educate them when we got a complaint. We would have to go to a
Sure.
location, see if what they're doing is safe.
Yeah.
Read some of the other parts of the ordinance, and then educate them as to what the ordinance says. 'Cause
And get attached.
even if you post this, some communities, I think South Burlington's one, they have signs as you approach their town line that tells you that there are gun ordinances in place, but it's
I think
not-
they do in Shelburne.
It's,
too,
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
They don't list the ordinance, so, I think any law enforcement officer would, in a jurisdiction like that, has to do some education before they really do any enforcement.
But if we had the policy in effect, anybody like outside the village limits, it would be a state trooper. They'd be calling the state police with the problem. So that would be up to them to come out, and check it out.
I have reservations about doing this in the entire town. Partly from what you said, Michelle, same kind of thing, what Jim just stated in the past. I think it's a good idea to have it in the police district. But to do it in the entire town, I just don't see the necessity. I think it's too limiting, for folks that do have space and want to do target shooting or whatever the case may be.
So you think if you passed it, limit it to the police district only?
That's
How do you handle stuff like Broadview Estates? I mean, that's a fairly condensed area. That's why
Yeah.
That's right,
the
that's
other
fine.
reason why I kind of included the town, because you wouldn't have to, they wouldn't have to go all the trouble of posting their property
Right.
and then hoping that some sort of, and I'm not sure if the state violation is something that a ticket is issued to, or if you have to cite them and do a whole criminal case. What, we could talk about, I would recommend some restrictions in the town, but certainly in talking with one citizen, I think 500 feet might be a bit much.
Could,
Well,
Just-
can't they, oh, I'm sorry, Joe. Can't they adjust their covenants?
well, that's what I was just gonna ask,
They can
could
make
the
covenants.
Association of Broadview Estates, which they have, I don't know, I think they have some meetings and stuff. And
They do.
No, they pay dues to have the
Yeah.
road work done and things of that nature. Could they have a policy in Broadview Estates
I don't know how that would be enforced.
that they don't have any, allow any, shooting?
I don't know how they would enforce that. I don't know how those
Well,
covenants are
couldn't that
enforced.
police handle that? If that was
That'd be
registered with the,
civil.
That'd be like handling an eviction. We don't
It'd be
do
a
that.
civil matter once it got into their covenants.
because I have some reservations about doing HDR just for that. That up there at Broadview or where Michelle lives or some of, down on 116, isn't HDR, but those houses are pretty close. Just,
I'm not trying to tell you that you should have this. I think that we should have some language in an ordinance to protect town residents as well. That might be limiting that distance, because essentially if we're talking about a property that was maybe 200 feet wide by 1,000 feet deep, and the only house nearby you is 500, well, say 200 feet behind your back property line. If you've got a shooting position just outside your back door, you'd be within 500 feet, and you could easily be within 100 or 200 feet. What I'm proposing is that some consideration needs to be given to the town as well. And again, I think that the distances I came up with in the draft are probably high. Certainly.
How many towns did you look into? I'm sorry.
I don't think I printed them all. I had some help. And
There you go, Ginny.
I sent an email out to there's a chief's email group. I sent one out to them and I got a lot of responses from them. And I had, I think, a couple people, residents sending me stuff that they had gathered. So I have probably twice what I'm sitting right here.
Ted and asked, do you have any?
Yes. I didn't see paintballs mentioned in here anywhere. Our kids have paintball wars.
That would probably be included under similar weapons.
Yeah? Okay. And also, what about shooting ranges in an HDR district where the shooting ranges are inside the building? You don't have to
I
go
only know of
very
one.
far.
Is it the same one you're thinking of?
There was one right over here in
On
the
South Street.
basement.
Yeah.
In the basement underneath that building.
Yeah, that's right.
It was a shooting range.
Yeah.
Would that be permitted now? If it was inspected by the police?
I don't
and-
know how we would get a complaint about that.
Well, you could hear the guns going on.
Yeah?
And I know of another one in the HDR district that is inside the building. Or it could be outside of a building if it's very carefully
suppose if-
designed and controlled.
And go through a zoning process.
I suppose if they had an indoor range, yeah, you'd probably have to have some language about that.
Alright, I'll make a note.
Would-
and-
Would the fishing game get involved in if you wanted to have an approved range?
Oh, I
Then-
have no idea.
Because I know there was some talk somewhere over on the border in New Hampshire and Vermont. It was in Vermont, but they could hear the noise. And,
Well, that might be if you're doing it as a business or a club,
well, that's,
because I know that the Vermont Police Academy has had issues with their range. And I don't know where that came from. They had to do some things to improve their range to make it safer, I guess.
So my point is, would that be permitted? And I think it should be.
I think it should be as well, but
We can add it in here.
Yeah.
I think it would be wise to put language in the ordinance
Well, of
covering
course,
it.
yes, yeah, and have inspections and that sort of thing by the police
And it
department.
might be part of the exemption or exclusions.
Yeah, because that might be federal or state as needed or something.
Well, the only thing I could see running into, and if it's in your home,
No.
I don't think it would be a problem, but I know that
Be in your
some
barn.
some gun clubs and stuff like that, they have an issue of ventilation and lead poisoning and just all kinds of.
I would think if
stuff.
anyone wanted to do a range light, it would be permitted to death between the state and the feds and the,
I don't know if they still have it, but I saw it in the house down here.
yeah.
I don't
For
know,
years, you
it's
just
right
shooting
now.
out Luthers.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
Yeah,
years,
it's still
Luthers.
is used.
It's there. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it doesn't-
Still
yeah.
there.
Oh, I know
they're
another
gonna
one.
choose right now.
Yeah,
Right.
so,
In other words, anything but that one.
so what do you think about, if Peter's thinking maybe just the police district, Michelle, are you leaning towards that way too, just the police district? What are you thinking, Ted?
I'm thinking police district and leave the rest of it kind of open to people's,
So I could,
Good sense.
so I could shoot up a storm in my backyard. Not in the police district.
So maybe you expand the distance, maybe the distances are changed, whether you're inside or outside of the police district.
Could there be some I was just gonna ask that, Teresa, could there be some language in there that says, to the district, former village area, you know? I think I'd like to see it at least go down, maybe stretch the village, so to speak, the old village, just maybe the Hewitt Road, Lover's Lane area, you know, is pretty crowded. And then maybe some language in there that says, maybe the distance is a little shorter, but
Yeah.
in the town.
Well, I think to address the.
You know, 200 feet in the town with a safe zone, something that, you know, if you have, you know,
I think
somebody
if
in
you-
Broadview or up
I think if you try to use.
on Hartscrabble Road, it's pretty packed.
If you just try to use the village, I mean, we had someone at the other meeting who lives on Broadview Estates who's in support of an ordinance. I think rather than try to just incorporate the village and some outer lying fringes of the village, because there's gonna be, I would imagine we could probably have 10 people come in tomorrow. As well, if you look at where I live, there's a lot of houses there, trailer parks. You know,
That's true, Maple Ridge is
Does
like,
that shrink the distances outside of the?
I think this is I try to keep it simple, I was trying to keep it reasonable for practical use. I was trying to really use common sense in this ordinance. And 500 feet was just a number I came up with based on, you know, existing laws. I think this ordinance would work better if we gave some thought to that distance. It could be 150 feet, it could be whatever you guys desire. I think it would take care of those spots we're not thinking
Yeah.
of outside of the village. And certainly in some places in town, it wouldn't affect them at all. Because they, you know, they can walk out their door and not see a house when they look. Because of the trees and distance from their home to another. But we're going to forget congested areas in some parts of town if we do that. And really, again,
I'd like
it
to
gives
think
us a
like
tool. It gives us a tool, I mean, and you know, outer lying
Wasn't
parts of
really
Bristol.
We're not gonna vote tonight.
yeah, no, I know.
No, I mean, it would need some work.
Yes, I crossed your name off, but, okay.
Well, I wonder if there's, I mean, you know, like the cable company does things like so many houses within a certain period or certain, you
Like
know.
a density?
Density, then they will bring in cable, you know, can you do that same type of thing with this, where if there's, the density of the housing population is such, then,
But you're making it so complicated when you start
Yeah.
trying to put a place.
And what happens if somebody puts in a development somewhere out in the outer lying part of town?
yeah, but then they would fit in with that, so many houses within that density, is
Oh,
what I'm
oh.
saying. You know, as it gets built up, you know, or as more houses get built in that area and that density builds up, then
I think if you, and certainly we could give some consideration to it, if we give some thought to that distance piece, I think if we tailor that down, we can address that problem rather than say, okay, over here you can't, over here you really
Right.
shouldn't, here you shouldn't, well, here in the village you can't, but this guy lives just outside the village and he probably shouldn't, but, you know, the ordinance doesn't cover him, you know what I'm saying?
Well, when you come in tomorrow, I can give you my notes and then, we can look at the zoning map too, just to kind of get some ideas as far as cluster of houses and maybe distance and see, then give it back to the select board with some changes and then, you know.
What I'm
it's just a
hoping we
rough
come
draft.
up with is an effective ordinance that we don't end up, you know, well, we missed this. Not unlike the parking ordinance issue that I spoke with the fire chief about.
There you go.
Missed that.
No, I asked that question.
All right, so it
You
makes
did?
sense.
I did ask
Oh.
that question.
So I think it's, I think that makes sense then,
Well-
and I think it's open as far
So
as.
it sounds like what I'm hearing is you guys do have an issue with the distance piece and how we're fair to people in the town.
Yeah.
And really, I want to be fair to everyone in town, but I also want something that is effective, really uses common sense and doesn't infringe on anybody's right to, I mean, because this ordinance does not prevent someone in the village from coming outside their house and shooting a rabid skunk. It doesn't stop them from that, as long as they're, you know, they're not going at them with a machine gun. and-
Right, because I've been a
Like a
concern
big
of
fun.
gyms, and I think this does a nice job of listening to what he's saying, and basically what you're saying is you're just,
You don't have anybody.
You're regulating.
You don't have anybody within 500 feet of your house, do you?
yeah, and then you're just, you know, like you're saying, it's just common sense. It's really about safety. It isn't about what you know, about what, about,
Well, yeah,
you know.
I mean, if someone today were to go outside their house and start firing a gun up in the air to celebrate,
Yeah, it's
you
coming
know,
down somewhere.
the sunshine, it's not a good idea to do that, but there's really not a lot we can do.
Nothing.
There's
Well,
no
you
state
might have a
ordinance.
reckless endangerment
Yeah.
case, but that's a stretch.
Yeah. All right.
We have 3 neighbors that are shooting right around our house.
Really?
Yeah. On Garfield Street.
Any more discussion?
No, that's a good start. Thank you, Kevin.
Okay.
Any comments? You want to take any comments?
It's up to
Any
you.
comments from the public on what we've heard so far? It's the first rough draft.
I'm wondering, does the town have a noise ordinance?
No.
Something?
No,
Did you
No,
just
we-
say no?
yeah, we
No.
don't.
No,
No,
we-
usually
if-
state
We
law.
rely on state law, and you'll get,
And there is no state ordinance, no.
there's a state law, it's called noise at night.
Yeah?
Which you'll get from some people you talk to, be it law enforcement or municipalities that, you know, after 11 o'clock at night, you gotta be quiet. That's not what the state law says. The state law basically says after hours of darkness or before sunrise, peace and quiet should be maintained. So if someone's making a lot of noise at 9 o'clock at night and it's dark out,
It's
that's a
okay to
violation of
shoot
state law.
during the day, and as much as you want.
Well, if someone were shooting at night, right now that'd be a violation of that state law, or could be,
At night, but during the day.
not during the daytime.
No, that's why they're working on the ordinance.
Okay.
And I can address your question about how many towns were surveyed. I can't remember the figures exactly, but it was about 180 towns that I emailed, and I got a response from about a third of them.
Oh,
And
wow. That's-
From that, I don't know, Kevin, what did I send you, about 35?
Thank you.
So after a while, I started looking.
They were starting to all look the same after
Yeah.
a while when we were reviewing them.
Only one town responded that, no, we don't have anything and we don't want anything.
Oh.
And another town responded saying, no, but we're looking into it, could you let us
There
know?
was-
Let us know how
There
yours
was
comes out.
one, they passed an
Nice,
ordinance
Thank you.
that basically said, it shall be law that the right to carry and bear arms
Yeah.
shall not be infringed by this
Yes.
municipality.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I think I sort of put an homage to that in here.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Okay. So we want to leave it, he's gonna tweak and get with
Yeah, it's
Teresa
gonna
on
come,
her
yeah.
notes.
So,
I'll give
And
you-
bring it back to another
All
slow
of
and
the
methodical
above.
and get it right, instead of hurrying it and get it wrong.
Thanks.
Anything else you need me for while I'm here? Okay.
Okay,
I don't have any medications.
Yeah.
okay,
Just
we'll
warn me before you just stick them in my hand though.
we'll put our water and sewer annual district meeting hats on
So we have to
and
call that.
we'll call it annual water and sewer district meeting for budget vote. We'll go over the budget as water commissioners we are and sewer commissioners. So you have in your packet, I saw the water budget and
What would you like to do first, water or sewer?
Whatever
Which
pops
is
up on
the
your,
easier of the two at this point?
Well,
whatever pops up in your
I
list
don't know.
first.
I have sewer right in front of me.
Okay?
Yeah.
So
Then sewer it is.
I actually, so the bottom line is you have 34 users in the sewer department, and sewer is, you're gonna have to make some decisions about the sewer ongoing. Because what's happening is, because there's so few users for sewer, it's just Main Street. Obviously, you know, the expenses are going, and as you can see by this budget, which I'm not happy with, the $2,500 that we normally put away for capital reserve fund, even with this increase, I have $169 in there. That way, but if there's any additional surplus in the budget, you could transfer it. But what's happening is, obviously the sewer system is just more expensive to maintain. We're gonna be doing some work to it to add a hatch so that the cells can be better, basically cleaned out. But we had an increase last year of 5%. We put in all new meters. Was really hoping that since all the meters are about 20 years old, that we would see a recovery of something, because they were telling us that the meters, the older they got, the less efficient. Didn't work out that way. We didn't see that additional increase that we would have liked to have seen. When I came up with the budget, I had done a 10% increase to the base and a 34% to the other charges, to the usage charge and the usage surcharge. And I'm thinking about it today. You have the same problem in the sewer that you have in water, in that the majority of your users are minimum use users. So what I came up with tonight, I came back to run some more numbers, and instead of doing a 10% increase for the minimum charge, and still trying to come up with that same revenue. If you did a 20% increase in the minimum charge, you could do a 20% increase in the usage charge and a 20% in the usage surcharge, and it would still get you to the same, hopefully the same projections that we need. I mean, it's funny because we're only looking to raise, just over 40,000 in the year.
Well, a total increase of 9, right? Or, yeah, just about 9 from 31,700 to 40,900. So it's not, we're looking to, I don't want the camera and the public to think
Oh,
we're
no,
increasing it 40,000.
No, we're increasing the
total
rate.
budget is.
Right, the user fee collection is about that. So, I reread the merger document, and because one of the suggestions I had as always, I go visit Peter Ryan about these things, because he's trustee and he has a real love of the water sewer and follows it really well. One of the things that's in the merger document is at town meeting, you could try to pass, you could vote to see if the general fund would absorb some of the cost of the sewer district. There's definitely two schools of thought there. Somebody could say, hey, nope, they're their standalone system, they need to pay for themselves as was originally intended. Or you can look at the value of the downtown and see if the voters at town meeting would be willing to say, maybe put aside $4,000 a year just to put in the capital. Like, make sure that maybe the sewer district absorbed their cost to run, but maybe the general fund put money aside for those capital expenditures for a replacement. I mean, it's just a thought, and it's definitely a conversation you're gonna have to have again around budget time in the fall. But you need to think about your long-range plan for the sewer. We all know that there's a possible pre-treatment for about $500,000 that you could pre-treat the system, but at this point, nobody's looking for it to grow. Nobody's asked for extra capacity.
Or expansion either.
Or expansion, that's what I mean, extra capacity.
That capacity, isn't it?
May 15th of every year, you have to send a letter to the state, which I did, so they'll be recalculating our
Where is it now?
Our reserves.
Our reserves. Well, what's kind of funny, Ted, is we always seem to come up with the same number. I swear to God, we resell the same ADF, the same flow over and over again. And I can't remember what the number was last year. It wasn't very much, a couple thousand gallons maybe. But, so, like I said, so when I'm thinking that if you leave this budget alone, you pass it with either of the rate increases that you choose, then you have to have a conversation, I think, about what you're, I mean, that's really not a lot of money, even if you started at $2,500 or $3,000 out of the general fund to subsidize that. And basically you're just putting it away in case they need it, you need it for a capital, reserve. Because obviously the downtown has a huge value to the town itself. So, but I'm sure some people would feel maybe you shouldn't have to subsidize the sewer district. I don't know.
You just said that and all I could think of was the dump.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no.
Yeah.
No, no.
Well, it's interesting because Eric Fornd, we were talking about, and he said, Therese, can they merge? Can the sewer and water districts merge? And I said, that's a question for the attorney. I read the merger document. I couldn't figure it out whether or not they could. I'm sure it would be some big vote. I don't
So
know.
then you're taking the usage is gonna spread out over the 600 customers of water instead of the 40 customers of the district, right?
Right.
The sewer.
Yeah, so, it seems to me the simplest would be for the general fund to maybe put aside $2,500 a year, maybe $2,500, I would start as low as $2,500 a year to put aside into the sewer for capital. And I think that's really
and that would come
just,
from all the taxpayers.
and that would come from all the taxpayers.
I'd like to see that deferred. I'd like to see this tried out.
Oh, absolutely, and you certainly
Because
could.
throwing money at it isn't going to increase conservation.
Absolutely not, and,
And these are not huge numbers.
no, well, what could happen too,
$173.
by the time you come around to start budgeting, October, November,
Yeah.
you would have seen a couple billings and to see what's gonna happen. So no, I agree, I'm just saying it's a possibility of a conversation that you should have, in the future about it.
So Therese, right now, the money that's in the capital fund for the sewer comes just from those 34 users?
Yep, and usually we budget $2,500 a year, and this year, I didn't budget as much because I was thinking, we had a rate increase last year, and now we're doing a rate increase this year, so,
So on this budget, you have
17.
5,000 for GME to handle re-permitting, come out of the capital fund. So that's stuff that of the 2,500 we've been putting in, that will come out of that.
Yeah, exactly, because it was, I think we were at our, every 5 years you have to do the just re-permit, so just the annual inspection for $900, so that's where that will come from. So,
A question or kind of a comment I have more is, it is a slight increase of $14, but also,
$14?
right here it says minimum charge would be
okay, yeah. Well,
158.
yep, and I actually.
Last year was 144.
Yeah,
So, but, if one of these systems in the village, mine or Ted's or anybody's here in this room fails, we're looking at probably a $8,000 to $12,000 bill to get it to come in to replace.
oh, I'm sure.
And so these things, no, they can flush the toilet and they don't have to worry about replacing their system
Right,
because someone else is handling their system.
yeah.
And so,
Yeah, so what I could tell you, and I think, is, so that was, I also thought about the usage charge and the usage surcharge. So when I was recalculating again, because it just didn't sit well with me that you did 10% on the base and then 34, so I feel better, me personally, but you can obviously do what you want, the 20% across the board, it does jump the minimum use charge from $144.40 to $173.28, but because more than half the users are minimum use users, then it doesn't penalize someone who's going over the usage. And you only really have a couple of people that maybe, and I've tried to encourage people, just if they buy more capacity, then
they don't get the usage.
then they wouldn't get and then you wouldn't get the usage charge, money. So it almost made more sense to increase the minimum use charge by 20%, bringing it from $144.40 to $173.28, and the usage charge from $60 to $72, and the usage surcharge from $120 to $144. And then I'm also saying I think that you should charge more for if you're going to sell the ADF. You might as well sell it because you don't, or if you sell it, you might as well get more money for it then as well, because obviously when someone wants it, it's a hot commodity, and they would need it to. Like I think the last person buy it was Sherry and Paul Jackson because of the taco. They were taking on more seats in where the taco place was, where Tandem is now. So,
How often do you have the usage charge and usage surcharges?
You have a couple, I think every billing, every quarter, but it's only a couple of people.
Okay.
And sometimes it's, you know, it's unfortunate when maybe somebody had like a leaky toilet that they didn't realize at first and they caught up, and then it's and then you're paying twice. You're paying for the water going in and the water going out.
I mean, if you see your notes here at the bottom, maybe where we kind of blew it was, you know, we went 5 years without a rate increase.
Yeah, and then you've
Maybe
done.
if we'd have
like-
ticked it up a couple,
Yeah, it's
every 2 or
definitely.
3 years, a little bit, then
I think it's the same as the
10%
water.
here.
Maybe
Same with
it's
water, we've been saying,
CPI.
I've been, you know, people will tell me, we got the cheapest water in the state of Vermont per quarter.
Yeah, and maybe
And I know,
it's-
because I approve 6 bills for our branches, and
Yeah, maybe.
ours is always the cheapest.
And so it might be worth doing for sewer what I'm proposing you do for water, which is to do a rate increase every year just based on the CPI. For the most part, you know, obviously you would look at it, it wouldn't be a mandatory increase, but
Who can add on at this point to the sewer? I mean, how, it's just the downtown, right?
just, that yeah.
So
Well,
where else can we add, what else can add on?
Nothing at this point. I mean, you could make somebody could make a request. I mean, I think you're already, let's see, you're at, the last one to add was Bazer's. Fred Bazer was the last one to add, Bristol Financial, I believe.
But is that as far as it can go?
To the corner and then up to
To
the
the
trading
corner.
post, it goes to the trading
To the
post,
corner,
goes to the
The
old trading
trading
post.
post line goes
Yeah.
right down through
Okay.
Baser's yard.
Yeah.
So really, you're, I mean, at
Yeah.
number D, you're really not gonna have any new service really connections.
Well, the
right?
only,
North-
what you
North
do
Street.
see is you'll see people coming in who want more ADF, like for
Okay.
example,
Right.
somebody who constantly goes over, then I would say, come in and buy more flow, so then you're not paying that penalty every time, you could just pay the base use. So sometimes you'll see, like if somebody wants to add more seats or a different business or more bedrooms in an apartment, that sort of thing, then they
Is
would
there
have to.
enough- Sorry. Is there enough capacity to continue to do this?
It's limited. I mean, we'll find out what the number is here in a couple of weeks, but we have sold it, yeah, we kind of joke about it in a way because I swear we're
You
selling
resell the same stuff. I know, I had this conversation
Yeah.
when I first got on. It's like, I
Exactly.
don't understand this. How do we keep coming up with more
Yeah,
capacity?
and it's not really more, it's kind of just still there, but yeah. I agree.
My
People just
question's
aren't
always
using it
been,
all.
if we sell, okay, to a place that wants to do something else, that little bit we get for that ADF could increase the value of that property 3 times over. More than what the
ADF, you mean meaning?
you know, let's say where the auto parts store was now, and it's a closing, it's a consignment store now. What if they wanted to open up a pizza shop there? And, you know.
And he wanted more seats, so
He
you
wanted more
sold
seats, he sold more
ADF.
ADF. And then he goes to sell that, that's when is that worth more now as a pizza shop with more sewage than when it was when their minimum usage, like the bank is, minimum usage?
I don't know, I mean, I don't think that I don't think the listers take that into consideration. I mean, I think it's either you have septic or you don't, just like when they
Right.
list any other building, I'm not
Right.
sure. I don't know if I mean, I guess it would be, if someone wanted to buy a pizza shop, sure, you know, they'd be happy with it, but if they wanted to put in a clothing store.
Well,
it
Tandem
wouldn't
is
be.
kind of a good example. At first, they didn't get the ADF.
Oh, they had it all along because the taco guy put it in.
Well, before the taco guy, when it was just a convenience store, they had the minimum usage.
Yeah,
And then, let's say they couldn't buy any more ADF.
Yeah.
And then the Jackmans wanted to sell that, Sherry and Paul wanted to sell that. You know, if somebody said, well, I'm limited on my usage if I buy your building. Because
Yeah.
I can't open a store, or I can't open a pizza
Restaurant.
shop or a restaurant because I can't get any more fluid.
so
Didn't that
what's your
happen
more?
on the other side of the
It
street?
did.
It
yeah.
did happen on the
Yeah.
other side of the street, Ted, that's what I'm saying.
So what's, but I don't understand what your point is, I'm
So-
sorry. What does it matter if, whether or not
So
it's more
they come in
valuable?
and pay, okay, we got some fluid to sell, and they pay very little for it.
That's why I'm
And
saying.
it doubled the
increase
value of the
price.
building.
Right, that's why I'm saying increase the price. That's my,
Right.
my proposal, and is, I'm saying you should do a 25% increase in what you sell.
And I've always said, when the fire station was on North Street, and now, you know, the library is still up there, and that's not going anywhere.
Right, but they also have their
And
own
system.
replacement septic. They have their own septic
And
and a
a place for a
replacement
new
septic.
septic.
Yep, they do.
I would want to sell us out if we ever had to hook the library up, because we had that line up the street.
All right, yeah, no, I mean, there's no plan, nobody's before us asking for any. I'm just saying, I think you should increase the price so when the time comes, you get more for it, because I do think it's more valuable.
Yep. So what's your thoughts, people? Wanted to come back wanted to do this.
No,
or-
we're not coming back.
Not coming back, we got our sewer
I
hats
think
on
the
now.
20% increase is a real good idea.
Across the board.
20,
Yeah,
20.
quite And I agree with Ted, I think we let this slide and see what happens.
Yeah.
All right, so who's gonna make that motion,
I
Ted?
so move.
All right,
I will second.
There's a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
thank you.
Peter second.
We'll put on our water hats.
Yeah, so now, oh yes, water. So I did, so here's water. So I gave you this, a copy of this report, and like I said, I was really happy. This gentleman did a great job for us. Resources for communities, solutions, or resources for solutions, communities, people. I like it. He did a great job. He looked at our rate 10 ways from Sunday. I was so happy because, and he came up with, as I'm saying, he's saying that a 7% increase in water rates, and then looking at possibly increasing per the consumer price index on an annual basis. So what I liked about it was he even really looked at, he took our long-term budget, and he also did a fairness check about equity, about how, because again, which is what I've been saying, was I felt like the majority of our users were minimum use users. So it's hard when you are feeling like if that's maybe somebody on a fixed income. And so the way it was balancing out was he was showing that, the majority of the users are minimum use users. There also has some payback where the higher end users are also helping financially, until it passes this, kind of fairness equity check that he did. Anyways, I thought it was great, and it didn't cost us a dime, which I'm so happy about. And he did a terrific job, and was very thorough. I met with him like 3 times, and so like I said, he's recommending the 7% increase, and he's right. And obviously in this one, you can look at the U.S. Bank, and I had to put in some one payment for USRD, the 9341, plus some interim financing based on, what we borrow. So I had missed that in my first round because I wasn't sure when we were going to start the project, and then knowing that once we started, and then there's 6 months for a warranty period, so that's where we stand now. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I tried to give you my notes.
What would a 2% for the following 2 years do versus only 1? Now I know my water bill is somewhere around 85, 95 every quarter.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't look at a long
1%
term.
is 90 cents.
I didn't say 1%. He's saying
The
look at
CPI
the CPI. Sorry, is the consumer price index.
index, right.
Oh, I just read here, 7% overall rate increase being placed within the next 6 months with a likelihood for additional 1% increases the following 2 years.
Yeah, so it'll depend on what the consumer price index is at that point. And what he's, that way you kind of have this nice even growth, and you're looking at it every single year instead of doing exactly what we did with the water department. We were or sewer department, a really long time without doing an increase. And so this, by at least getting you to look at the CPI, is going to kind of keep you in balance as far as inflation. So whether it's, his idea is 1%, maybe he looked at what the past CPI was. I don't know, Joel.
Did he also look at you gave us a copy of the capital, long
He
range
looked at
capital.
everything. Oh, absolutely.
And did we put in there, because West Street's not the only street we want to do, and in bonding improvements for the
Right.
water system.
Well, if you looked at, Appendix A is the budget projections. And so he's kind of budgeting out the variable costs plus the fixed costs. And he also does have, at this point, he was basically budgeting out the appropriation of about $25,000 a year, because so then what would happen is you would end up having to bond.
Right, but the 25,000 pays that bond payment, correct? Is that what he's saying?
Nope, the 25,000 goes with the goes with also with the long-range plan that I had provided
right
to you.
here.
So, but
You've
what
got
I,
all the things that we're gonna be spending that
Yeah.
25 grand on.
but one of the things I ended up taking out, Joel, was my hope was at one point was I had the budget set so that maybe we could put the Pine Street, which was like the
Right,
next
that's
big
the
thing
next
here.
one.
And I couldn't do it because by the time the replacement of water meters, I had to actually drop it to 100 because they were pricier when you looked at the bigger mix of different size meters. And then we need to redo the remote monitor equipment, we need to do a leak, once we finish doing that drinking water, the asset management plan, where I was working with Green Mountain Engineering, and they were coming in and they were giving us, we got that grant to figure out, okay, exactly what we have for equipment, how old is it, what's its life cycle, what it would be cost to replace it. Once I started throwing all those numbers in here, I took out the trying to save for or pay for big renovation, big lines like that. We'd be end up better off, it's that versus that capital saying versus paying a bond payment.
Well,
I think in this case, you're gonna be better off making a bond payment, or maybe if you have enough saved, you could make a down payment to pay $100,000 worth of the work and then bond for the rest.
no, I guess my question to you then, maybe I did it wrong to you, was, now we know we're gonna have about $750,000 into this project on West Street, because they came in around 680. And
Yeah, so we'll have a little less actually,
So
yeah.
what is that bond payment a year over the 30-year life? And that's absolutely coming out of the water budget.
Yeah, it is. It's calculated right in here.
Right.
So USDRD, it'd be about 93, so about 19,000 a year is that
Okay.
payment.
So if we said we want to do Pine Street in another few years, and then through GME's calculations, okay, these are on the radar in a 10-year capital plan. What would we have to increase? If nothing else increased, what would, just to make that $19,000?
Oh, I don't know, Joel. I didn't do a long-range study on how you would finance your debt over the course of, I didn't look at it that way.
I just don't want to get too lean on it like we are with the sewer, and then
No.
where we're looking at a huge increase versus.
Right. Well, since I don't think that you're going to be tackling Pine Street for probably 5 years, would be a guess on my part, considering you're probably going to want to pay down other, you'd probably
We
want to
still have
pay
that North Street payment, right?
and you'd have the Holly Hall payment. You'd be just about
Well,
ready.
no, I don't mean the ones out of the general
No, I'm not
tax. I mean
talking
just
about those. I'm talking about the ones out of the water department.
Holly Hall.
I mean, you did at the same time you did Holly Hall. You borrowed money to do the water line here on North Street to go over the bridge.
Okay.
So it's pretty soon you'll be losing that bond payment. So when you lost that bond payment, you could do another project. So I do believe that the 7% increase now, and then you would be looking at the CPI if you weren't looking at another big project. If you knew you were going to be doing another project in a couple of years, you would make sure that you'd increase probably the prior year the budget to start, preparing enough money to cover the bond payment. But certainly, I think at this point, the 7% increase and then just looking at the CPI until you were ready to take that on, because if you've paid off that one and one other, then you'd be like, maybe this CPI increase is fine because we've lost 2 bonds, so we have that bond money freed up to now we could do Pine Street or whatever street.
Well, yeah, okay, I just,
Yeah,
if
I get what you're saying. You don't
if
wanna
we
be
say
too
Pine
tight.
Street in 5 years, we did have a study done and it was in front of us
We do.
once that showed us the years of pipes and what material was, every
Absolutely.
pipe.
Yeah.
They did a beautiful job, and if they say,
Yeah.
if you wait 5 years for Pine Street, you should do another one within 2 more
Yeah.
years, and then we may have 3 bonds that are real close together.
I'm trying to remember if we had that for like 2027. I mean, it was a ways out that I had it originally. Anyway, I do think it was another 10 years, and I do have that study in there because that's how I used it originally to build my long-term capital plan, and I was trying to see if we could save the money to pay for Pine Street. But then once we did the other study and I realized we need to buy the new heater, we need to buy a new generator, we need to buy, once you start putting in those things, I realized that just wasn't gonna be possible. I think a down payment might be possible, like we're doing with this project to take 100,000 out of capital roads to buy down that bond. That might be possible, Joel, but I can't say for sure. I mean, I can certainly look into that for you.
Could we get maybe before it gets too long in the year, before you leave us, could we get that shown for us. I don't know if.
Oh, you want the study
Peter
guide?
and Ted,
No, I haven't seen it.
Peter and
Oh, yeah,
Ted
I
have
can
even
make a
seen
copy.
it.
Sure.
The study that shows what size pipes on every street.
Oh,
what
absolutely.
The age of each pipe, what is material of each
Yeah,
pipe.
it's right in my office, so I will make a copy. Copy GME water study pipes. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's great, and they did such a good job. And that's like I said, I built my schedule around it originally. So,
And my other question on this 219, 2020, remote monitoring and meter reader is, before we switched companies, we were all ready to scrub the tank, lower it, and do something to it.
yep,
And
I'm still working on it.
that's not in here though, to do?
Nope.
Because that was, boy, we gotta do that
And we
before
do, but it doesn't need to come out.
SOS left, and now
It
it's not
doesn't-
even within the 4 years here.
Because it's not coming out of the capital plan. It's gonna come out of contracted services.
Oh,
And
okay.
we actually had spoken just recently, I'm actually just talking to Alan about it. I sent him an email waiting for a response, because if the original idea from the Aqua Store was to drain the tank and anodes, I'm gonna say, oh, I was like, I always got the wrong thing. So, and we were gonna replace the anodes. Then the state came in and said, oh, well, if you're gonna drain the tank, then you gotta do this permit, that permit. And so what we were thinking about is trying to find another way to do it. Maybe divers, so I have 2 companies, but I also would
Okay.
send an email to Alan asking him, how does someone else do it? You know what I mean? Is there another way besides
Draining
divers?
it or diving.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so nope.
Well, I didn't
still-
see that in here, and I'm just going,
No.
how did something that was such a hurry to do
Yeah, no.
go right off the radar? And
No,
that's
it's
why I
not.
asked.
I actually have a
I'm
sticky
sorry.
note on my monitor with 2 places to contact and about it to see what kind of price that is. But my hope is it comes out of the contracted services out of the general
Okay.
budget. Does anybody else have any other questions about it? And I tried to put notes in here so you could know what I was up to.
So we did 100 meters this year.
We've
well,
done
this will be-
69 so far, yeah.
60. Is that the 2016, 2017, though, that'll be the 100 meters that we've got budgeted for, right?
Right, and what's gonna happen is right now, as of, you can see we have 14,000, some of that money is gonna be, I'm gonna have Peter make a journal entry and transfer some of that money into the capital fund, because that's where we budgeted it, it just coded to here, but it needs to be transferred out.
Why did the electrical usage for the pump go down?
Fixed leaks.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say,
We were
we're,
pumping,
yeah,
we were pumping
That's
like
it.
100,000 gallons of water a
Okay.
day
Yeah.
into the ground.
we're hoping that West Street, that we see a
Okay.
significant, because we know West Street is leaking, so we're really hoping we see a
Okay, well, I
significant.
knew we hadn't fixed that yet.
Exactly,
I was
so
wondering why.
we've done a couple, and, but we're really hoping to see some significant drop.
Well, that one on Pine Street was, when you calculate, it was over 1 million gallons a year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Million and a half.
Yeah,
yeah.
crazy.
And that's why I'm wondering why it's out there 5 years, that's why I asked.
Pine
But
Street.
no, they fixed it. I don't
Yeah, no, I
recall.
was talking about the whole Pine,
The whole
upgrading
Pine.
the entire street, I'm sorry, I should have been clear
It
about
won't
that.
last 5 years in pavement, that's
And
for
we
sure.
have, and Peter is, before snow flies, Peter Boobier Road Crew is gonna fix the hydrant near Heath Road. That's leaking. That was
Yeah.
that was 64
Yes.
cents, and he's gonna do that. I spoke to Peter about it. We actually went
They're
up to
gonna
look
dig it
at
with
it.
V-Tom's gonna repair it, do the repair.
Yep, but Peter's gonna dig it, the road crew. What?
Is Heath Road on Mountain Street?
Heath Road, yep, goes off from Mountain Street Extension.
Yeah, it's right at the top.
Right at the
Sharp
top,
bend.
yeah.
Building overhead and maintenance, from 3,000 to 8,000, that building, isn't that rough?
No, well, it's because if you, because I had a note in here, I needed to get $5,000, I need to replace, it's up a little higher, it didn't fall down. New doors and paint, the 2 outside doors.
Oh, all right, here
yeah.
it is.
Yeah, see, because I
Yeah,
didn't
all
have
right, that's
lines.
the blank
So,
line.
yep, that's
Yeah.
a one-shot deal. To get those fixed, and then we're good to go. And of course, all these increases are effective July 1. These are effective July 1st, so I should have said that.
Well, I'll make a motion that we accept the budget as presented.
With a 7% increase?
Yes.
And the 1%.
No.
And increase using the CPI?
Well, I think you can just look at that. I just,
I think we look at
We set
that
the debt
yeah,
next year.
absolutely, yeah.
Do the 7% now and,
Yeah.
and next year make another decision
Absolutely.
about what we may need.
Yep.
I'll second.
Who first did?
Joel, I did.
Any further discussion?
This is real valuable.
Yeah, I thought
He did a great job.
You get a question?
Maybe I shouldn't even ask about, I was just wondering that new development right there in near downtown where they have
Right,
fire.
Hipport?
Yeah.
How's that affect the sewage and the water? Is that-
They actually have their own septic system. They did join the water district, which is nice, as it brings on more users, more revenue. They paid to connect. They also split the cost with the town to upgrade the line on Mountain View Street. So it's actually better, and they have their own septic.
Nice.
Yes.
And then we hope to also take on Woodland Apartments
With water.
with
With
water.
water. Yeah,
Water usage.
that's what we're hoping. More users.
We got plenty of water to sell.
Well, yeah, we grow the ground, we should have plenty of water instead of throwing it away.
I guess one more quick question about that. Where exactly does the water come from? Is it,
It's an underground spring down here on the river on Extension South Street. It's called
Across the
Pump
bridge.
House Road.
Pump House Road.
okay,
Across
right.
the bridge,
I was
middle
wondering
bridge,
if
there's
that
a
was
sharp
spot
left,
there, yeah.
way over and back there.
There's a spring box down there that overflows constantly. It comes out of the side of the ledge on the south side of the river.
Okay. Did it ever used to come from Lincoln and come
Yes,
down?
yes,
Okay,
it
that's what I
It
actually,
gravitated down from Lincoln.
yes.
Road.
So now we have to pump it.
Yes. Once we started pumping it all once we had to close our water system, once we could no longer have an open.
Federal law, you couldn't have open water
Yeah,
from a stream.
cool, thanks.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Are we doing, have you done the sewer or is that?
We did do
Yeah,
this.
sorry, yeah.
That's okay.
We're right back now on whatever.
Right back on the
So
agenda?
yeah, it would be out of your, concerning your water. So-
Uh-huh.
Take our hats off, sewer water hats off.
So we will adjourn the water and sewer district meeting and go back to the select board meeting. Public forum, opportunity for citizens not on the agenda to briefly share comments and concerns with the board. Jim?
Back to the firearms ordinance, we have one complaint, that probably could have been handled by the police department, and then we're gonna go through a big thing of more government regulation. We don't need any further government regulation, as the chief started discussed earlier. Also, there's a pocket here, there's a pocket there, next thing you know, we're gonna have pockets of rules all over the community for nothing, for one complaint. It's enough. Enough is enough. You deal with each situation as it comes by. You have a problem, you call the police department, if you're in the district, the police officer goes to the people and he tells them, listen, this is a dangerous situation, please rectify it. Simple. No, we gotta have an ordinance now, it's all this nonsense for nothing. That's my point on it.
I apologize for missing that part of the meeting. I wanted to be here for that.
All right, we can, catch
We didn't
up.
make any decisions.
No, it
Okay.
was just, no, it was just really rough.
Just
This is a
early.
very rough draft. We
First
just took
draft.
some feedback.
All right. Anyone else? Ian?
So I have a couple comments. One is about the kiosk, which I know there's been some developments on that, so maybe that will be discussed in a minute. I have two things not related to that. Is there public input on the town administrator position?
Yeah, as I said in my email to you,
Right.
no, that currently that wasn't the plan, but that's, I guess, someone else could answer, but, you know, there wasn't when they hired me.
Right.
And look what you got, you know, and so, at this point,
I
But
know.
if you have some specific concern or some question, then I would say get it to Therese and the select board can evaluate it, whether it's something they need to consider or not.
The previous administrator, we had a group that picked 3 candidates for the select board to interview. They vetted them and then the select board interviewed. That's when we hired Bill Bryant. And we chose not to do that this time around. Primarily, I believe, because they're working for us and
Yeah. As
Well,
I
we
s-
didn't do that with Teresa's group
No.
either. We did the
No.
vetting ourselves.
Just as the history on that, Ian, I was one of the citizens that, on the Bill Bryant hiring, and that group decided not to put it out to the community, because we did discuss allowing the community to come in and kind of ask them questions and that kind of thing, and we thought that was just too cumbersome, and so even back then, it was a group of non-select board people that made that decision. I think it was a good one.
Anyone else?
Actually, I have another question.
Okay.
As regard to Pocock, I was interested in hanging banners across the lines on Main Street. I've never ever seen anything there. I've seen them in historical photos. People have done stuff for Christmas decorations, but I'm wondering who is in charge of that if I wanted to do it.
Where?
I'm doing a mock-up just
You
to see
have to
it.
call, I think you have to call either Champlain Valley Telecom or whatever.
Well, we have a
You're
banner.
talking about putting them across there.
Right, that's
Yeah.
to do it, but I'm wondering, is there an ordinance or is
We
there
have a banner permit, you have to come into the town office,
Okay.
if you're talking about just that one over here.
No, it's the ones on Main Street, since
There's
it's
a
a
cable on
downtown
Main
event.
Street.
Main Street.
We've
There
never,
are two, one
There-
on each
Yeah.
end.
There are two cables across
Yeah.
there.
I haven't seen that done in
It's been a while.
10 years.
It's been
Because
a while.
we've only done the one over here,
But
you know,
wouldn't that
that's
banner
all.
permit be the same for the downtown too?
I guess, yeah, well, we had done, well, the burnt permit is just basically, it's, you have to find someone to put it up and get it
Take it
down.
down.
And it has to be,
We talked about.
no, it has to have holes in it so that the air
Gotta go
can
through
get
the
it.
design review.
No, it doesn't, it's a temporary banner. That's the way we've done it, I mean, that's what we do with these, we just make sure it
It's a sign.
has a hole in it so the air can flow through it so
Yeah.
that it doesn't come down. That's really the only caveat that I think that we have had,
Okay.
that we've had on that one. And
Are there limitations on how many can be put up? Like, there are two lines on Main Street, so could I put a banner on each that was double-sided or something, or is there a preference to that? I'm curious. Not saying I'm gonna do it, they're expensive to do, and then it's a real pain in the butt to put up and take
Yeah,
down.
no
And to
doubt.
center and make sure it stays and doesn't wrap
Gotcha.
itself up and all that.
I think that we try to do just one at a time on this one over here,
Right.
and so when we, authorize someone to do it, we try to make sure that won't.
I think he's saying one banner, but what he's saying is.
Can you put the same banner
different-
on?
Different banners on the, or the
Different
same
cables.
banner on three
Right.
cables.
Not
I
for,
think
it
that's
would
the
just
question.
be.
Just the two downtown.
Just the
Yeah,
two.
I think so.
I mean, I guess that's the board's pleasure, I mean, I
If we have a
haven't seen it.
banner permit, I guess it
Yeah.
has to follow the permit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then if we get complaints, we'll change the permit process.
Yeah, so
I mean, if
it's,
it's temporary, I
Yeah,
assume
and
you're
it's
talking
just-
Yeah, it
a
would be
week or
like-
2 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like 2 weeks before.
there's a
Right.
date, yeah, there's a limit on when it can go, when it comes down, and
Okay.
that's
We
it.
usually put one on the side of covers.
Covers, right, yeah.
But I'm thinking that I've never seen the wires used, and it might be nice. I mean, Middlebury has it for the Chili Fest, they have it going across,
Yeah.
but I know it's a difficult thing.
And it's
to do.
been years since those were
Years.
used.
We
Yeah.
used to use those for,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and for Christmas decorations,
Right.
yeah.
I guess if
Remember
someone
that?
goes,
They
like, you
did
might
that
wanna have to
every
make
year.
sure that they're gonna stay
Right,
in
no.
place, because it has
Right.
been a while, but yeah, just come in and fill out the permit, and Pam has one on her
Okay.
desk.
Anything else?
So,
Well, are you asking if we have any input on anything, or do you have
This is-
different
this-
topics?
This right here is the opportunity for you to bring up something that you want to talk about.
Okay, and it's the future of the kiosk, like what the next step is, or
how about if I read this, maybe this will help. So, this is from Victor Hinojosa. Due to time constraints, I am fully stepping away from the kiosk as my Eagle Scout project, I will no longer pursue it. I want to thank the town and Eric Foran specifically for giving me the opportunity to be a part of the process and giving me many materials to be successful since day one. His hard work should not go unnoticed. It's guys like him that make a difference in the town. Thank you, Eric, Select Board members, DRC, and ZBA. Yours in service, Victor Hinojosa. So he's moving on to a different project. So I don't know. But anyway, which was very lovely, and I just personally just want to thank Victor. He did a great
But
job.
but the hearing is going on tomorrow. They
Well,
reconvene for tomorrow night at 7.
Yeah,
Right,
but they'll
so-
probably
but here's
cancel it or.
But the permit wasn't in Victor's name, it was
But
in the select.
here's the problem. So Victor, since Victor was going to be trying to arrange with Deb for a
product.
Thank you, for a product viewing. I did not do that today. I did not track this woman down because I didn't know if you were gonna pull the permit or pursue the permit or what was gonna happen. I had one board member's opinion, but I didn't know. So I didn't track this woman down and arrange anything. So I would say that tomorrow night is gonna be one of two things. Either I'm gonna write to the ZBA tomorrow to tell them you've pulled the permit, or they're gonna have to come together to adjourn
Kevin
for
said
like-
they have to come together anyway.
for another couple of weeks or so that I can try to pull this together. So I didn't know what your pleasure was, so I was.
You were gonna bring that under administrator's
Well,
concerns.
yeah, well, I had a feeling it would come up now, so just fine, I have no problem with
Yeah, I
that.
mean, we might as well discuss it now. I was the one
Come on,
that
I
called.
think you have a lot of curious.
I was the one that called and said that I would, it's our permit, I'd like to leave it in, and then that way, if we get something approved, it's there for another Eagle Scout. I'm not opposed to looking for a different style sign if that's the board's pleasure, but I think that's,
And I did include in your packet, I think, that I got this thing. So I
Well,
did.
you gave us information.
Yeah, this was one of the e-readers.
The e-ink.
E-ink. And they don't make their sign, I was told it doesn't fit into an existing kiosk. But he gave me the specifications, and this one was gonna be, for the total cost was like $13,800. But I asked Val to print out the color copy so you could see what it looked like. That's what it would look like. They said it doesn't fit into that, but it doesn't mean there's not other technology available.
Is my understanding correct that the e-ink is not like bomb-proof?
Not
Or
like
whether bomb-proof, weatherproof?
Oh, I don't know, that one's is outside, I'll show
Okay.
it to you when, after they're done looking at it, you can see it, I mean, it's outdoors, so
Okay.
it's obviously recessed in this.
So it has to be
unit.
their unit?
It looks like, it, yeah, he said they
yeah, I
don't
don't
make them
think
to
that, that
insert.
unit's not gonna fit.
No,
with
that's
that.
very
That's a
modern.
real
That one's not gonna fly, huh?
Very modern, so,
Yeah.
First I'd like to say thank you to Victor for going through all the
Yes.
steps and being resilient and having a thick skin for what I thought some comments were not very polite. But he did a lot of the work, and if we do continue with this, whoever takes it over, if it's another Eagle Scout, can thank him graciously for going to go through it. But I think we keep it going. I mean, whether we wind up with a different display or some other, but I think we should keep the permit.
I'd like to see the Eagle Scout go through the process. I think that was a very good learning experience for Victor. And so consequently, I'd like to see the permit pulled and let the new guy, if there is a new guy, go right from ground zero. There are too many loose ends to this project anyway.
Well, that's my concern, being it's our permit, and if the board was willing, I think we should pursue it so that we know what's there, and then we have an Eagle Scout build it. I think that if we get to that point again, there's gonna be the same controversy. If we can deal with that now and get it taken care of and know what's going in there, we've budgeted money for it.
But the money's still there. The money's been there for years.
No, the money hasn't been there for years.
$5,000?
That
No,
was
we
just this
put it in
year's
there this
budget.
year.
it's, yeah, no,
We haven't, when we started talking about this, we had a bunch of bonds come through, and we had, times were tough, and so we opted not to put money in the budget to do the
I
kiosk.
misunderstood.
So that's where the $5,000 was put in the budget this year. Doesn't mean that we can't hold that money and put enough in there to do it next year if we know it's gonna cost more.
The other thing is, I mean, I think that the ZBA needs to vote it up or down.
Right.
They need to either say, either this sign is in, we'll pass it, or it's out and we'll pass, and they don't pass it. Then you go back to the drawing board and with a different insert, because they can't pass it. It's in this weird way. I think that they need to,
Well, that was
and that's what
my,
I said, that they can vote it up or down. So
my understanding is they wanna see what it is, and I'm sure the general public wants to see what it is,
Yes,
so
absolutely.
that, so that they know what's gonna be out there, other than just like the pictures that you brought up would look like a strip mall, and that's not what we want.
And that's not what they have
Yeah.
to look like.
No,
Now,
so I mean, Kevin said that he would like to see the color and the background so that he could base his decision on that. There was no way that the ZBA is gonna allow an electronic sign without knowing what it's gonna look like so that they can write in their findings the way it's ran.
They can't get a decision without all the information.
Right.
Right.
That makes perfect
Yeah.
sense.
Right.
However, did the sign show up? Did the sample show up yet?
Well, no,
because Victor pulled out, and then
So,
I didn't do
we're
anything.
back to ground zero.
Right, because I didn't track down Deb, who I have to figure out who she is, how to get hold of her, but I didn't track her down today because I didn't know what you guys were gonna do. Okay, and I was like, I'm just not doing that,
All right.
and until I figure out
Well,
what
you
the
can't
select board
with, you
wants.
can't with one member saying something. I
Yeah,
mean,
right,
that's-
exactly.
I guess my only question is the zoning question. If they vote no tomorrow night,
Yep,
then can we not even put a kiosk there without any electronics there and bring it up again? Or, but if we pull it and say, we never got a ruling, so we can bring back something later.
okay, well, I
That's
think.
what I'm wondering.
Right, so I think that what would happen, what they're gonna vote on, up, yes or no, up or down, is this project as presented.
Yes.
So you could still go back in another 6 months or a year, whenever you decided to bring another project in front of them,
With a different-
just knowing that you'd probably better have a different insert and maybe you want it smaller or whatever. The
It could even
changes
be
would
a kiosk.
It could be even, yeah,
Just, yes, it could be a kiosk.
Yeah.
But if they vote no, we could still come back with just,
They're,
yeah, you could
6
go back
months or a year.
100 times.
they're
Okay.
not gonna vote either way without seeing
Seeing something,
the sign.
right, they're not
Yeah.
gonna vote tomorrow.
And I don't blame them.
No, and I'm not gonna make that happen tomorrow.
Right.
So I'm gonna I'll talk to Eric and have Eric reach out to Kevin Brown and they'll come together to adjourn for a date certain. I'm gonna ask for 2 weeks so that I can,
Well, now that the
Restless.
time restraint's gone,
Yeah,
I mean,
there's no rush.
there's not a rush. It could
No.
be 2 weeks, it could be 4 weeks.
yeah,
Yes.
so we gotta figure
So you
that
talked
out.
about, you put it in the budget for this year, but we know that the proposal with the electronic screen was over double that budget.
Mhm.
So is that, I'm just curious, like, obviously, you know my views about the design, about something as an alternative to electronic screen, but I'm now focused more on the cost of that. That seemed, I mean, I was suggesting doing printed posters, which are $3 at Kimball's, so literally like a post would be $3. Doing electronic screen, the one that was proposed was $22 per post, per message, for 52 weeks a year. You know,
I didn't calculate
it's
it
seven
out.
times more expensive to do the electronic sign as proposed than do pre-printed posters, which are just as easy to do. Like literally, you'd unroll it, you'd walk outside, you'd open a hinge door, and you'd pin it up, and then you'd close it. I mean,
Somebody has to
lit-
create that poster though, too.
Yeah.
I mean, so you gotta consider the time it takes to create the poster. I mean, you can't just say it costs $3 to print it
Someone
off.
still has to, would log into a computer and type in and create the text on the
Okay.
screen.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
a
guess it
negligible
depends.
difference.
Depends, I guess, on the poster, but,
I mean,
yeah, this or that.
I've already created mock-ups and it took me 10 minutes using a template that I just found online. I mean, I agree, yes, it would take longer, but is it worth 7 times the cost for that to take longer? Like, just hire somebody, I'll do it for free. I'll create 52 posters or whatever you want for the year that you can just put out. It just seems like a crazy amount of money, you know, and for what you're getting. I mean, you're paying for this enormously expensive screen, and you're gonna be using just dark text, and dark green text on black is not gonna work. You're not gonna see it. It's just,
Well, we're not saying that would have been the color, we'd have to figure out
that,
what
no, that's
works the
what,
best.
no, that's what you have been saying. That was what
We
was
said it
suggested
would
at the
be,
meeting.
we said the background would not be black. We'd make it so that it wouldn't, I mean, like, people were complaining about my name sign, and we're saying, no, we don't want it to look like that, so you may have to make the background a different color, so it wasn't so glaring. You know, if dark green was the color that worked best, okay, but it might have been maroon, it might have been blue, it might, I don't know.
Well,
You
mayonnaise
know.
is a black background.
Well, I
with
know,
orange
that's what I'm
text.
saying. That's-
Right, and that's, the reason for that is that's the sign that you get if you don't get a full
Color.
color sign.
Right.
And you know, I do think that it was blown a little out of proportion when full color, the signs you brought up were full color. And I totally understand where you were going with the fact that you could do it. But I think you're gonna find that the ZBA is gonna write something into this once they see the actual, once they have an actual prototype, they're gonna write something into it so that a future board can't change it without going back to zoning.
Certain features that are available are not permitted.
Sure.
That cannot be used.
But regardless of all of that, like if you had a solution which was like the poster-based one, that is almost as easy as doing electronic and could look 100 times better and is 7 times cheaper, why wouldn't you choose that? Why would you still push for something that costs $11,300? I mean, that just seems like, I don't know, it seems like it's just very strange to me.
And you had a question?
Yeah, I'd like folks to reconsider the location of the sign as well. I think that Bristol is an old, historically important town. When we travel from the west, aesthetically we should be looking at these old, beautiful buildings with the beautiful mountain as a backdrop, and the sign right in the middle of the traffic area, the high accident area, is one more distraction. There's a lot of freestanding elements as you're coming in, and this is just one more. I think perhaps something to consider is to move it to Howden Hall, where there's a little less going on. I don't know, there's a lot of solutions.
There's no space there. They've got the bell tower there and you've got the stagecoach there.
Well,
right
then
now.
I'd like, I think there has to be a solution that's better than something space-agey placed in the middle of a lovely, beautiful old town.
Guess I don't call it space-agey, but.
So one night, I didn't bring the pictures of that spot being used since the building was built for advertising. I have a picture right after how Holly Hall was built, advertising a play in that spot. There was a big display of the names of people who served in World War II. And since then, there has been a lot of advertising being done right there in that spot. I mean, it's not a new thought.
But the town is also just getting busier and busier with elements. That's my 2 cents.
Yes.
So, I've been thinking about all this too, and by the way, I keep thinking of you leaving in 2 years, and I don't know how we're gonna arrange.
2 years, 2 months.
2 months?
June 30th.
But you'll be fine. It'll be great.
6 weeks.
It makes me nervous, all this information you have, and then you're gonna.
They all know it too,
Oh.
it's fine. I'm not.
And we know where she's gonna be.
Oh, okay.
I'm just the
you
one
can't-
talking.
Anyways, I
Don't
just
let
want
them, they know it all.
I want to say personally, I've appreciated your support of me living
Thank
overseas
you.
and all the
Yes.
information you've given me, and I want to
Thank you,
put
it's
that
very
out there.
sweet.
So I've been sort of researching other alternatives. I think probably Ian's is the cheapest and very effective, but I also was interested in looking at what they did at the Town Hall Theater in Middlebury. So I took a picture today of what they did, and they really, I talked to Doug Anderson,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
and they really wanted it, they really made an effort to make it fit into that town hall. And so it's just an alternative, it's not as cheap as what Ian's doing, but it's another.
It's just a side view, one of them. and
This is
a-
not an elect,
No, and what it is, what they do is,
Yeah, somebody has to go out and put all
Yeah,
that
right.
stuff in there.
It's a side.
They have a volunteer do it.
I know that, but it's still, somebody has to put it all together and then get it up in there.
open up the door, you take a panel out, bring the panel
Yes.
inside, put
Yeah.
these on it, and
It's
just
very
go.
exact.
It's pretty, thank you.
It ain't rocket science.
yeah, so they, so I talked to him and he said that they had a local metal person do it. Low knock?
Oh,
No,
Lou's
no.
not.
Lou's
Yeah.
Anyway, he did it. But
He
they
did
had that
metal.
especially designed and he did it.
He
locally.
created the outside,
He just told me it was, he did the metal work, he did the whole.
Oh, nice.
So he didn't do the sign then, though. He
Yeah.
must have some-
So I went and I looked, I did a little interview, and looked at it, and inside, they have a volunteer that once a week, you take out those 2 panels,
Yeah,
that's why the
like
side.
Ted is
front
saying.
side, yeah.
Gotcha.
But the drawback of it is heavy, you have to have somebody that can, they are heavy.
Handle it.
Okay.
And then you take it inside, and then he has a whole box of these letters, and they just pop in. And
Been
they
there, done
do-
that, haven't we, Josh?
And so volunteers, but I think it's classy, and it goes with everything, and you can really read it from everywhere. And it's definitely less than 11,000, and Doug was gonna give me a figure tomorrow of how much it was, but I thought it's really a classy thing, so.
Is it lit at night?
Yeah, they have lights.
They have lights on the.
They do
on
have
the
lights.
thing, So,
LED.
That would constitute a lit sign.
Oh, the LED bulbs in there.
Oh,
You
okay.
can't buy an incandescent bulb.
Right,
It's gotta be
that's true,
LED.
you're right.
Yeah, so I just want to throw that out as another option. And then one other thing I wanted to bring up is that the other day, the Planning Commission put on the Bristol Porch Forum about their agenda. And I think if you want to communicate with the public, I know that many of us, I read it every day.
Oh, nice.
And I get a lot out of it. I think it's a great thing. And I think that if, as select board, you also, because I know that there was a complaint, we weren't really tracking this early enough.
Okay.
But I think that if you put it on the porch forum, okay, some people don't have computers, but a lot of people do.
Right, yeah.
We would actually read it, and then for your minutes, you could just do a link so we could see the
You also
meeting.
go to the website and see the agenda and the minutes. We keep them on, we put it on the website. We
But
put our
you know,
agenda
you know
on
what
and
happens
our
with that
minutes.
website?
No.
Is that people don't take that extra time. They go quickly through their emails. I do the Digger, I do the New York Times,
Oh, I got ya.
boom, 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 boom. So if
Yeah.
you really want public, they're not gonna take that extra time to go into your website and find
Yeah.
out in the time. So
Yes.
I
We had
highly,
a discussion.
We can
about
ask
this.
Pam about it, yeah.
I highly recommend it.
The other thing too is I was gonna say, and I said this the other day at the ZBA meeting, time for public input was through the zoning process. That was exactly the way it should have been. Because we had a zoning permit, the town was an applicant, just like if you were gonna build a porch. You'd put in your permit, you'd have to put out your little P sign for 15
I've done
days so
that.
people would see it,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and that's when you're supposed to take comment, is during the DRC and during the ZBA meeting. So if someone got the impression that they should have come to the select board sooner, that wasn't the case. The zoning process is designed to take public input, so I just wanted to clear that up.
And the process worked. I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
we're having the discussion. You know, the permit didn't just get filed and the kiosk built, so the process is working. It's not, and I think that both sides have been fairly civil. You know, it's been a good conversation. And it will continue to be until we get something.
Well, you know, I just make just one little statement. As I watched the DRB meeting the other night from home.
Excuse me, which one?
The DRB.
Okay.
DRC, excuse me.
Okay.
The other night from my house, just getting back from umpiring, and we've all used the term quite a lot here for this building as iconic, right? And-
Iconic?
Yeah, and no one thought more of this building than me, like I did with the old 32 North Street and the fire station, wanted to get it rebuilt up there. And I was watching my favorite Red Sox team get their butts kicked at Fenway, and Fenway Park being the oldest ballpark in the major league. And would you say that was a little archaic? I would say it was.
Yes, totally. Fenway
But
Park.
they've got a big screen out in center field that shows the players and stuff, and they got seats now on top of the green monster.
I
And
think
they
that
made it
is-
work though.
yeah. I think that's
And if
different
they'd
though.
said that, well, we can't have that stuff because this is the oldest ballpark in the world, they made it work. I just said, that's what I thought about this. I think
And
we
they're
can make,
selling tickets for attendance.
but I think we can make this work. Somehow we're gonna make this, somehow try to get this to make this work, to keep the people informed about town events.
When you say make it work, you mean we're gonna
Somehow.
have enough input so that
I
we
would
get
hope
something
so.
that the
Everybody's
residents
gonna,
all-
not everybody's
can
gonna
come
be
around to.
happy and 100% win, but we're all gonna say, you know what, it works. It works.
And you're thinking electronic still? That you're
No,
basing this-
I'm not saying like the one like Mount A, maybe something, maybe you brought up about the, is it e-reader or something, like you said about the Kindles and
But
stuff
still
like that.
electronic, you're not willing to do anything other than electronic, it sounds.
Not at this
I
time,
was gonna say, I don't know that any of us are closed-minded
not
about
at this
anything.
time, Ian. I'm not saying ever, but not at this time. I wanna see a lot more ideas.
Why are we still?
Hang on. We've got somebody who's been waiting to speak here, so.
Oh, that's okay. I have patience. Or I'll work on it. I think it's very important not to compare us to a high, big money-making situation.
I didn't,
And
I
it's
just
not
said,
a correct analogy for me.
I didn't mean it that way at all. I meant
Well-
the oldest ballpark in the Major League Baseball.
Okay.
And it's the iconic of New England, Fenway Park.
Right.
And they still made it.
Okay, so
Somehow. They didn't tear it down like they did Yankee Stadium, build a new one, they made it work.
Okay.
And I think we can make this work. So
Oh, I see what you're.
that's what I'm trying to make a point,
Okay.
to make everybody happy. I think we can make this work.
I want things to work out too, and I want alternatives looked at. I definitely do not want the light, but that's me personally. So I'm concerned about down the line, this kiosk being decided on. And if there's gonna be a little piece of this electronic whatever brought in to say this is what it looks like, we still do not have the impact of 5 feet 6 inches by 2 feet 7 inches. If I was gonna make a decision as a member of this community as to whether this is abrasive or doesn't feel right, the analogy that the person who's in charge, and I forgot his name, Kevin of the zoning.
Kevin Brown, yeah.
Kevin Brown said this at the last meeting on Tuesday. He said, you know how when you go to the paint store and you get a little chip of paint? He says, then you paint the whole room that color and you go like that. So I don't know what the plan is out there in the future, but if one of the options is to go electronic, for me to make a decision, or anybody else who I want to convince to come down here and view it, please come down, be an informed citizen, and give people feedback as to whether, yes, that's acceptable to me, or no, that doesn't fit for me. I think the whole thing needs to be there. That's one idea. The other idea is to understand what our goal is as a community. And I think the question is, how do we best communicate with our community? And then to also look at those options. One of my neighbors mentioned something about even using the library bulletin board as a place, a go-to place. To use places in our town that can educate the public as to even if it could be printed minutes, or maybe the minutes aren't total, maybe it's a highlight of minutes so that there's more public involvement with understanding about what's going on. Because a lot of people get busy with their lives, right? I'm lucky, I'm retired, but a lot of people have jobs and they go home, they're tired, they go feed their families. And I'm just wondering about better ways for us to communicate with each other.
Pat, I'm just gonna answer that real quick, is we do currently, we post the agenda at the library here and Shaw's, and if we have any, sort of like votes or things like that need to be, any warnings, they go at the library here, Shaw's,
so it's
sometimes the
my
bakery.
ignorance.
No, I'm just saying,
I
so
didn't know
we,
about it.
because the select board votes every year, and the 3 places that we post things are there. So if you look on that bulletin board, there should be those,
Okay.
not the minutes, but the, any agendas or
Right.
public hearing notices
Thanks
should be
for
posted
telling
there. Yeah.
The other ideas that have come up for me is, I really don't know, I know the select board is, you're elected by the town, but I don't understand your role as in representing your constituents, or how you collect information from people. And I know you guys are busy with your lives too, and this is one piece of it. So you don't have to answer that right now, but
Patty, I think I can answer that for you
Yeah.
pretty quickly. It's similar to a school board, which you are obviously used to. And the school board depends on the principals and the administration to keep them informed, and they have to make decisions. And they, like us, we need to do some work on our own. We go to Therese, we depend on her for the day-to-day stuff, just like when I was a principal, the school board depended on me to get information for them. They would ask me to get information and bring it back and report to them. So, but we make the final decision, just like a school board does for school budgets or whatever. So it's the same.
so it's kind of like that.
And they give public forum like this, they have a public forum at every select board meeting. So for every 2 weeks, there's always a public forum for people to come in and ask questions or see the, whatever topic might
So-
be
so
interesting to
Our,
them.
our email addresses are on the website, because I have gotten emails from constituents,
Yeah,
giving me their
okay.
opinion or asking me to pass this on.
Alright, so it's my ignorance, basically. In order to find out what's happening at your meetings, I have to stay on top of that, right? That's the only way that I know what's going on.
Sometimes there's something in the newspaper, usually after every select board meeting, Gayan Murphy, the reporter for the Addison Independent, calls me the next day. And so she'll do articles in the paper or a little thing under Bristol. The minutes are always published, of course, in the agenda.
Those things are all after the fact, so if she
After
wants
the
to
fact.
know what's going on, you
Prior.
have
You
to,
have
you
to
have
be
to go to
involved.
one of those 3 places or
Okay.
to the website to
So
get the
if-
agenda.
so
Or just
if
pick
I
up the
wanna
phone and call.
Stay up on what's happening about the kiosk, I have to, from now on, just check the
On
minutes.
zoning or call. Call
And
the
there's-
town office, we'll answer
Plenty of
it.
people watching right now. And they might see them come right through the door and say, you guys were just talking about it. And I want to come down, I'm over on Church Street or Pleasant Street, whatever. And it's on Channel
Oh, you're
16
saying
right
watch
now.
me
I don't have
TV.
a TV.
Oh, there you go.
Well, you can get it on your computer too. Go to
So
TV.
I put something on Front Porch Forum about the zoning board meeting tomorrow, so that I feel a responsibility to get back on Front Porch Forum to let the public know about what's going to transpire, is that the word?
Yes.
Or not, so that I can communicate clearly. So is there something I should do, or is somebody else going to do that?
No, I mean, the meeting will happen. I mean, they'll be here, they just may adjourn it for another time, but I
they're-
believe Kevin said they have to meet.
They have to meet and then they have to either drop it or
Adjourn to a certain
adjourn
date.
to a date certain. So it sounds like Teresa's gonna ask them to adjourn to a date certain 2 weeks from tomorrow night.
So the 5 of you are agreeing that you don't
Well,
wanna.
we haven't really
I was
decided.
just
We
gonna
haven't
say.
got there.
So,
Yeah, that's
so
what I was
it's just
wondering.
eventually, if somebody can give me the words, I'm willing to type that first thing tonight, or if somebody else can do that.
We'll do it. I'll have
Only
Pam.
because I'm the one who posted it
Yeah.
on Front Porch Forum, and
I
I don't
think-
wanna mislead people.
Yeah, maybe someone can ask, maybe, Ian, do you know, but isn't it, if we post something on Front Porch Forum, it had to be posted before 3 o'clock today in order to show up tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, so don't worry about it. People will show up tomorrow and they'll find out what's happening at the time, Patty, because even if you post something tonight or we do it tomorrow, it's not gonna show up until the following day, so
Yeah, there's a delay.
it's a delay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Because every-
things
every-
come, sometimes things come a little quicker than, it surprises me how
Yeah.
quickly they do it, so I
Every,
didn't
every,
know.
every post is looked at by a person.
Yeah, I know that.
So I think it's a built-in time
Okay,
to be able to
thank
do
you.
that for each.
So don't
individual.
worry about it. But thank you for doing that. I did forward your email to Kevin Brown. Thank you.
Ian, do you have
So if the meeting is adjourned to another date, is there the option to open up the discussion of alternate options for the kiosk, or it sounds like you?
I mean, my impression from the meeting the other night was Kevin wasn't, the permit was the permit and he wasn't talking about alternatives, they had to vote on what the permit was.
Right.
So they'll either vote it up or down and then we'd have to take it from there.
And then that's when you have to come back to the board to decide if you were gonna do some sort of a committee, citizen committee. I know Porter passed me a little note saying she'd be willing to be on it. So she's right, they gotta vote it up or down on that proposal.
Okay.
And then after that, they vote it down, then
I mean, there's a
Go back to
likelihood that it'll be
square one.
voted down since there's
Yeah.
actually no physical thing to look at.
right, I have
So
to arrange for that.
Right. So it gets voted down, right, nobody do it. So it gets
Well,
voted
I'll do it.
down, and then in 2 weeks' time,
No,
No,
if it
it's
gets
not.
voted down, that's it
Okay.
until
It's done.
an alternative is presented.
Until, yeah, and then the select board could decide whether they wanna make a committee and have somebody farm it out, and have, a group of citizens figured out if they're just gonna
Okay.
drop it or what they're gonna do. But I guess I'm gonna, between Eric Ford and I, he doesn't know yet, but we'll be tracking down Deb and trying to arrange for
Well,
this to happen.
I
We
guess
gotta
we haven't
decide
told
first.
you that yet.
Well, right, if that's what you want, that's what I gotta do.
Yeah, I
For
was gonna
tomorrow
say,
or for 2 weeks?
I don't think I can.
Well, it won't
make
be tomorrow. She
happen
won't be able to get it to tomorrow. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, I think, yeah. I don't think I can, even if these guys agree that they're not gonna pull their permit, I don't think I can get her display here tomorrow night
Yeah.
when I call her tomorrow.
So I'm asking, so you can't get the display here.
Right.
Does it get voted up or down at tomorrow's meeting?
No,
No.
they'll vote, they'll come to order and vote to adjourn to another date certain.
Okay.
So it'll just put it off another week or two till and then, because we'd have to get a date from Deb unless these guys are gonna pull the permit. And then,
And there's not the possibility to halt the process, to study other options, to set up a committee of people who would be interested in being on that committee to help the select board?
The way to halt the process is we pull our permit.
Yeah,
And
and
I think
start de novo, you know?
Start over.
And is there anything wrong with that?
Nothing.
We haven't had that discussion. I'm thinking we're gonna
We haven't had that
we're gonna have that
discussion yet.
discussion here. And probably now is the time to do it, as long, it seems like the people here are interested in this, so. What's your pleasure? Michelle, you wanna start? Or you?
I say we keep it. And that's just what the ZBA does.
Well, I guess I have to ask the question before you asked anybody else, and I should have cut in before Michelle answered, was, it's not on the agenda to discuss whether pulling the sign or not, so can we even discuss?
yes.
We had it under public forum comments.
Well, I didn't get Victor didn't recuse himself until, or pull his own, I didn't get the email until 9:30 Saturday morning. So I would have already.
Right, I know that. I'm
But
not
no,
saying that. I'm not saying-
Yeah, even though it's not on the agenda, this could
So
be.
it was brought up under public forum?
Yeah,
In order to give them an answer.
and you're not spending money, so there's no
No.
reason you can't, and you have to do something because it's tomorrow night.
Right.
So it's time is. of the
Just-
essence.
I just asked, it's,
No,
you know, because if somebody saw it on the agenda that they're gonna vote yea or nay to pull the permit, the supporters or non-supporters, and I know some are supportive to move to something a little bit different, and
Right.
I like seeing this, things
Yeah.
like that. And then others could come in the door and say, no, I want you to continue. It's not on the agenda, that's why I said, can we still
Right,
vote
yeah.
on to pull the permit or not?
Yes, you can still vote to pull the permit, yes,
Okay.
because.
I just wanted to-
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I got my umpire's uniform still on, I want to play fair.
Peter?
No. I guess at this point, I'd like to start over again, so I would be in favor of pulling it.
Ted?
Pull the permit.
Joel?
You know, if I vote with Michelle, you gotta, just so we can know.
Before you say, I can ask a question. Pete, if you want to, you're saying start all over. When you say start all over, you mean the whole design, the whole everything? Or you're just talking about options for what's put into it?
That's what I was gonna, because
I see them as one and the same. I mean, we're looking at different options, we're starting over again, in my opinion, so.
Yeah, but a bunch of legwork is already done, all I
Yeah.
have to do is bring it to the surface again.
Go ahead, Joel.
I'll say to pull the permit. Because I could take a piece of this and maybe convince me. Not so much the square, but the letters inside. Just a thought I have.
Okay.
I like this more than I do a bulletin board or a poster board. I'm not sure I
And you
like.
and I will go down and pull that out and lift it, and then we'll make a decision on whether we're gonna do that, because you know it's gonna be Therese or Val.
No, it won't be Therese.
Yeah,
Also,
well,
it doesn't
you know,
have
Val
to
or
be made
Sue.
of steel.
Well,
Doesn't have to be
I don't
made of
know that
steel
the
either.
inside is made of steel.
Right.
I mean,
I
it's
don't
a big sign.
But I want to know this. First
No,
of
I
all,
get it. I'm just saying.
if we're gonna
There's options.
fairly
It's
large
saying.
things to put on, can we put them all on? That's another question I
One
have.
Sunday, go over and ask them if you can go lift.
I may go up and see Doug tomorrow on the way, going to the bank tomorrow.
Michelle wants me to weigh this.
Yeah.
So I guess it's only fair that my opinion would have been to move forward and see the actual sign and see where it ended up. But it sounds like,
We're in the minority.
well, and that's perfectly fine. I'm okay with that. Ted gets his chance to be the minority more than not, so, you know.
Just call me 4-1.
Ted bad you took over my spot.
So, I guess I'd entertain a motion to pull the permit.
Go ahead, Dan. I'll move it.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. I'm really torn between this, I really am.
Okay, those opposed, nay?
Nay.
And I don't have to vote, but I would be a nay. So the motion passed to pull the permit. So you can notify the ZBA.
Tell Eric in there.
And tell Eric, yeah.
Eric will
He's doing it right now.
help out.
So, I guess the next question is, do we want to start a community group to research this and come up with a different design, or do we want it to die for now? I think we've got a lot of interest, and I think now would be a good time to get people moving.
I think that if you were gonna do that, you could do what you've done with other issues group, whether, for example, the fire department. You could maybe accept applications, because you could get a lot of people interested, and I think you don't want a 15-member committee doing this, it'd be tough. But maybe what you wanna do is take applications or just notes from people that are interested and why they're interested, and maybe a little bit about themselves. I mean, that's what you've done in the past, it's how you get people to serve. You ask a little bit about themselves, and because you want a fair balance, right, of people that want maybe electronic and non-electronic, so that so that nobody feels left out, so that everybody feels like there's a good compromise made, right?
And I think you also have to think about who's gonna be creating this. If this is gonna be an Eagle project, or we're thinking an Eagle Scout's gonna do this, they have to do the design and all that footwork. Is that correct?
And I'm not sure
Somebody
you're
answer
gonna
me, because
get
I don't know, I have no idea.
Yes.
Okay.
You may not get another Eagle Scout.
Right.
May not for a few
So,
years.
Yeah.
For a few years.
Yeah, they don't come along every year.
No, we don't.
No, we've been fortunate, we've
I
had
think
3 or 4 in the last
I
couple
don't
of
wanna
We're gonna
years.
end up doing
rush right in and pick, I think we have Pam put something on Front Porch Forum that we are looking for committee member of, we can pick a number later before the end of the night, 5, 7, I don't know.
See how many applicants we get and go from
Ian?
there.
Yeah.
I think it might be, well, my suggestion would be to open it up a little wider in terms of take a step back. Behind his head here. Sorry. Take a step back and maybe look at a bigger picture in terms of what Patty was saying in terms of communication with the public. The kiosk is like a small part of what it seems like you're trying to do, especially Victor's in his proposal. What he wrote, resonated with me in terms of I totally understood, and that's why I supported a major part of what he was trying to do. He was trying to get this information across, but actually it spoke to a much larger picture, I think.
It's true, it does.
So I think a committee that would maybe start to study, well, you'd set your goal. What does the town want to do? What do the town offices want to do? Get information out to people, so then you then figure out what are the ways to do that, and you'd analyze each of those sections. And then obviously from what you can get from pros and cons and costs, things like that within your budget, figure out what can be implemented. The kiosk is one part of that. I have a bunch of ideas on what you can do with using electronic items to be able to get information out, more than just putting it on the website. It would be sort of pushing information out to people so they would get it themselves instead of having to start searching for it, which is what a lot of the sort of newer communications is about. I mean, I go to the website and I know about that only because I've been involved with this for a few years. But if I hadn't been involved with Bristol Core and become part of that, I probably wouldn't know. I wouldn't, it would take a long time for me to find out about those things.
You'd find out after the fact.
Right, exactly. Which is what I have done, and then have gone back and looked, but just simpler solutions. But I think that's what that committee could possibly study, and just and it doesn't have to be hugely encompassing, but just figure out what your goal would be, or take the goal of what the kiosk was, which was information for the public, open it up a little bit more, and see what the kiosk and a couple other areas that you could study that would be part of that.
Be up to the select board.
And it could also possibly connect with the emergency ideas, right, Eric?
Mm-hmm.
That dilemma of how do we reach out to each other
Oh,
as a community besides knowing, yes, common sense kind of stuff, but if some systems were in place.
Put a big bullhorn up on the water tower and holler to everybody what's going on.
That's where we could put the kiosk. Like,
So,
A neighborhood captain, or, for each street,
Yeah.
captain.
so what's the board's pleasure as far as going forward with the kiosk?
thought we voted to start over.
We did, but are we gonna start right over now? Are we gonna look for committee members, or are we gonna let it? I mean, the thing is people know about it now. Now would probably be a good time to decide if we're gonna put a committee together to do it. We've definitely,
You're right, that was great.
we've definitely got their interest.
Have Pam put it on Front Porch
Yep.
Forum, collect some applications, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, so what do we want for a panel? How many people do we want?
Well, we don't know.
Well, Peter was kind of saying, wait to see how
Let's
many
see
of
how
them are
many
interested.
applicants
I'm
we
not
get,
sure if
and
Peter would
Okay.
say that.
decide from there.
Well, and I think in the meantime, well, if you put that out on Front Porch Forum, then it gives you a chance to kind of enumerate what Ian is saying, what is the goal for the committee? Do you specifically want the goal for the committee to just strictly be kiosk? Or do you want them to look at communication general? So if Pam puts that on Front Porch Forum, she takes out, we get applications, you guys make a decision at either the 29th or your June 12th meeting, or interview, or whatever it is you want to do at that time. But it'd give you a chance to think about what you're looking for, and then you'd have an idea by then applicants and how many members, etc.
Sounds to me like we need 2 committees.
I don't know. I don't know. I think one is good. You just have to decide. Do you want them to just do the kiosk, or do you want them to look a little bit more? And maybe you just give them some parameters and
Or
what
they
you
have
want
two
them to
goals.
look at.
Yeah, no, I like that idea. I think one committee to look at how do we get information out to the community, and let's let them brainstorm and come back with multiple ideas.
Before-
Including a sign,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
If they don't think that's going to work, then
Yeah. So task
Yeah.
them with looking at communication
Yeah.
in general,
Mhm.
making
Yeah.
recommendations, and then stemming your kiosk from that.
We'll
That's what you're
hire
saying.
a plane with a banner to fly
there
over.
you go.
Right. That's right. That's right. So if that
Breakfast for 2, $9.98. See,
I don't know if
see
you
it
need a
every day on
permit
the
for that,
beach.
Ian. Maybe we can put your Pocock permit on there too.
So if that goes out on Front Porch Forum, all right, so on the 17th, so do you want, what's your pleasure? You have the 29th and June 12th. So May 29th or June 12th, do you want to,
Have the names in, we'll select them by the 29th, and
are you going to want to interview them on the 29th, or
I
are you
was
just
gonna
going
say, I would
to?
say you'd select the committee by the 12th, because you may want to interview people on the 29th,
Yeah.
right?
Well, that's what I'm saying, is I think
Okay.
that could be part of the Front Porch Forum posting, but also, please remember, the 29th for us
It's a
is not a
holiday.
holiday, apparently, but for everybody else it could be. So do you want, it should be part of your Front Porch Forum posting. You're interested, they have to be here at the 29th for an interview, or can they just send a letter of interest with a little bit of the history? What is it you're looking for?
I
Because
want
the
them
Front
in
Porch
front of
Forum
us.
posting should be
I
detailed.
want them in front of us.
Well, then you can't make them come here on the 29th.
Then the
Okay.
12th.
There's
Then
actually,
don't- let's not-
we're not in a yank now, we're not in a,
Right.
I agree,
Right.
we'll strike while the iron's hot, but,
Well, we have their attention.
Yeah.
We'll,
we don't.
but I don't think
need to
there's if we put it out and we say we're looking for people, it gives people more time to think about it and
And we'll invite him to the June 12th meeting at 7 PM to meet with the select board.
sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
All right.
So if we get, wait a minute, if we get 40 people, we're gonna interview 40? Or are we gonna narrow it down on the 29th? That's what I was trying to get at, the 29th. Maybe we'll at least get the names in by the 26th.
Listen, if you get 40, we need someone else for the landfill. We need someone else.
Are we going to?
We're appointing them. We need energy committee people. We need, 2 people on the PC.
Just asking.
No, I understand. I don't know. That's your decision, not mine.
Peter.
Yes. Yes.
Linda.
Sorry.
Well, I'm just wondering, which I thought I heard you say as your first proposal, is that you put on the porch forum, we want to know better ways of communicating with people. What are your ideas? Just write you and send any kind of ideas and just send the ideas.
No, that's not what I said. Nope.
Actually,
Okay,
they
okay,
could,
I-
if somebody
okay, I
had
understand.
ideas, they
Okay.
could send them to the committee we appoint.
Right, the
think so,
committee
after.
would do that later. Once the committee is appointed, they would reach out, whether it's surveys or however they would like to do it, to the general public, and they would take that information.
Okay, so I want to just point out that maybe you don't want a committee, just put it out there, please, anybody's interested, send us the best way you think we can communicate, improve communication.
I think we need a committee because that's
okay,
a
so go
lot
through all
of,
those.
yeah, it's a lot of information to go through and it's certainly nothing that we have staff that could manage it.
I think we're currently looking for volunteers for a committee. And then once we get the committee, we'll charge them with looking for this information and they'll go out for the information. Are we happy with that?
I mean,
Anything else from the public under public forum?
Number one.
Number one, yes. Yes.
So I just very briefly wanted to give you guys a little peek into the conversations I've been having about a trail around Bristol idea. I had mentioned this a number of months ago, but under the auspices of the Bristol Rec Club, we're making an initiative for a trail around Bristol, and I sort of started by saying, well, let me just talk to some people who have expressed interest over the years. Turned out there have been a number of them, and when I talk to people, I say, well, what are you excited about with the trail? What interests you? What concerns do you have? And who else should I talk to? And that who else should I talk to just keeps growing. So I've talked to about 66 people so far, and I have another 40 who've been recommended that I should speak to. And I just sort of wanted to give you that update. I'm hoping to have a meeting sometime, probably this summer, although I would really like to talk to the people who people keep telling me to talk to before I do that. But you'll have more information then. We don't have any preconceived notion about where such a trail should go. Really, we're just exploring who's interested in this and what are their thoughts, and then when we get to the committee, I'll share sort of some trends and themes that I've heard from people, and then say who's here at the meeting and what are you interested in, and how can we move forward from there. So that's just kind of where we are right now, but I just want to make sure you guys all knew that that was happening, because if I haven't already talked to each of you, I've talked to your neighbor or your spouse or your daughter, and I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew if you heard anything about people saying they're really interested in outdoor recreation or trails, to say, yeah, call Porter, they're doing that under the auspices of the Rec Club.
Great.
Awesome. Anyone else? All right.
I have one quick question. So regarding the kiosk committee, did you guys decide on when you're gonna do interviews or no?
June 12th
Okay.
at 7. We're gonna make it as part of the Front Porch Forum post, getting them to send interested, a little bit about themselves. So I'll have Pam collect it and then come at the 12th at 7. Put on your calendars now, people. June 12th, 7 o'clock.
You can't be on the previous board.
Tour de Farms request. Cycle through Bristol, 8/16.
8-6.
8/6. Well, there's a line there. I even put my glasses on for that.
There we go. Sorry.
What'd you do the year? What'd you do the year? Take care.
They always are.
Does anybody have any questions about it? Gave you the map.
Tour de Farms?
Tour de Farms, yeah.
No.
It's the same.
Yeah.
just admonish, remind them again this year not to congregate across the road when they stop for.
I thought the request was pretty funny for not for the road crew not to put too many rocks on Plank Road.
Yeah.
Well, Plank Road is tough to bike on.
Oh, yeah.
It's really tough.
It's also Plank Road that I had to go off into a field 2 years ago because I came around a corner and the
across the
whole road
road,
was
yeah.
just completely blocked with bicycles.
Okay, we'll ride into single file.
Well, state law allows them to ride double.
Yeah, right. So
Oh,
they can
double,
go
oh,
double.
sorry, okay, double.
But
Thank
not
you.
20.
Yeah,
Well, they had stopped.
Yeah.
They were-
They had congregated.
yeah.
Can I get a motion for that?
I move that we approve this.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. That was a lot better vote than the previous one. Motion to approve the following curb cut.
So do we have to do these individually?
You.
Probably.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think? I mean, if
Well, I
it's-
was just thinking that if the road foreman
Yeah.
has approved them all with conditions, that shouldn't just do them all at once.
Make a motion,
Funny things have happened though
I make a
before.
motion, we approve the 3 curb cuts per the recommendations of the road foreman.
4.
4.
4.
I was gonna say, I thought
I
there
thought
was
there
four.
was 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, the one on Hewitt Road.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out where that was.
I was
What?
too.
It's, if you're going out of town on Hewitt Road, you
Out
know
of
the
town,
dream-
like down from which way?
going towards 116?
Okay, and come Hewitt Road that way?
Dream house.
No, if you're
Or going Hewitt Road out
towards
that way?
116.
Okay,
You pass the Dream House, bed and breakfast,
yeah?
so it's the
It's immediate.
side of that property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're taking 2 lots from behind that Dream House, and the driveway will go just
Here's
basically
the-
on the west side of the property.
Yeah, here's the, right here, here's the bed and breakfast, and then here's the 50-foot right of way right here.
So you approved the curb cut for the apple orchard a couple weeks ago.
Right, well, that's what I remember.
Yeah, so this is another
So that's
subdivision
the bed and
behind
breakfast.
this.
So this one on East Street, is that a new driveway?
Yes, it is the Alan Heisinger's house. If you're going east, it's
Yeah.
the next house.
That's the
But
one
they
that's,
share a driveway.
is that the one that's empty, or was empty? Like a tannish
It
color?
wasn't,
Yep.
yeah. They just bought it in there. But they shared a driveway with the next house to the east.
Oh.
So they wanna
Rockwood's,
move
Rockwood's old house?
No, one.
Myrick's.
Myrick's.
So they wanna have their own driveway. So they wanna put it on the west side.
Yeah.
So that's why they had to have the culvert to connect Heisinger's.
Tony Myrick.
Is this the new?
Tony's, yes.
Who used to, Dennis May who used to live there.
Okay.
No, Dennis May who lived in the next house. Dennis May who lived in 33.
Who used to do it?
Doesn't matter. 67. 33 is a long ways away from 67.
Maybe it wasn't. No, 69. It was 69.
Okay.
69 East Street, yeah.
Well, you remember,
So the one on Briggs Hill is the questionable one, but
yeah, that one looks like, well, Pete did notice that, that the site distance was.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's difficult because you can't really deny someone access to,
Pete said he'd most likely put up hidden drive signs.
Mhm.
He didn't want to mandate that to them because we don't want them to own the signs, I guess, is the way you guys do it, so.
I thought there was a minimum line of sight.
There is
There
386 feet and they're nowhere near it, so.
yeah,
Right.
it's 11 miles an hour times the speed limit, right?
So
But,
normally,
Right.
right, yeah.
Feet.
11.
we make the recommendations, like we made the
Feet.
recommendation for
11,
no
15
left-hand
feet.
turns,
Thanks.
no turns to the east, but generally speaking, they're just recommendations and the
You can't.
application gets approved because you can't deny them access to their own property.
The only way we can deny them access is if they have subdivided, and I think we put it in the minutes that if you create the problem, if say you have a 10-acre parcel and you create the problem, we can deny you access.
So this one, they created the subdivision, but there's one high and one low. So they can't really get to this one
Yeah.
without going into there. Then it goes to ledge. The other one should theoretically come off 116.
16.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a valid point.
Okay, so did you get a second?
Yes.
So where's the one on lot 1, where's that coming off 116? Or we can't grant that anyway?
No.
State highway, Joe.
Right, I know, but it says proposed house site and existing Woods Road. So is that where the driveway's coming in?
Yeah,
Lot 2?
that's a little pull off on Briggs Hill.
Yep.
Yeah.
Know where that is, yeah, okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to sign grant resolution for Bristol Family Center feasibility study for $30,000.
Bristol Family Housing.
Bristol
Bristol
Family
Family,
Housing.
I don't remember seeing Family Center.
This is the feasibility,
Hey,
yeah,
I put words where I want them.
that's all right. So this is the, one that we talked about so that they could get the money to look at Hunt Farm Road.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
So this is basically just a res that says, therefore be resolved that the legislative body of this municipality accept and agrees to the terms and conditions of said grant agreement, that I guess it would be me, Therese Kirby, town administrator, is hereby designated as the person with overall administrative responsibility for the VCDP activities related to this grant agreement, and that still me, who is either the chief executive officer or town manager, city manager, town administrator, hereby designated as the authorizing official to execute the grant agreement and other such documents as may be necessary to secure these funds. So we fill in the blanks and then you sign beside your printed name.
So moved. Somebody's got a second.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
I've seconded everything.
Second. Sorry, I was sleeping.
Any further discussion?
He's thinking about that call he missed.
No.
Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Oh, look at it. The sign across from your name, right?
Yeah. That's so they know whose hand scratches who.
Right.
I love it when you tell somebody to write the name, you get these things, you write and print, and the printed name is worse than the written name, so it didn't really matter. Got everybody? Yes.
Ian's
Can
raising
I
his
can I
hand,
just
sorry.
ask what that was about?
Yeah, it's the grant that the select board had signed, the VCDP grant, so that the
Hope.
Addison
Hope,
Hope,
yeah.
thank you. I'm like, can look at, they have a Hunt Farm Road, has some housing up there, so they received money from the state, a $30,000 grant, so they could look at a feasibility study about maybe possibly adding another building so it adds more low-income housing.
Okay.
So they can't apply for those funds on their own, they need the municipality to be the applicant, so we just kind of work with them together.
Okay.
Okay. Motion to accept People's United Bank Bond Anticipation Note, line of credit for $1,075,000 at 1.95% interest for interim financing for the West Street water and stormwater project.
So obviously you won't be using it all, but.
I was just gonna
Yeah,
say,
why are
we're
we
paying,
borrowing the whole thing if we're
Well,
not
we won't, we're only
gonna
gonna draw on it. We had to get approval for what, that was part of the USDA note. We had to prove that we can, ridiculous, even though they already approved us to give us financing. So we're gonna draw on it only as we need it, Ted. So we're not borrowing the whole thing, it's just a line of credit.
Is that
So we
interest
pay-
rate cheaper than what the Fed's given us?
Yes, it is. Yep. But probably because it's just. interim.
because it's
Yeah.
interim.
Usually short-term money's more expensive
I
than
know.
long-term
Well,
money.
they're pretty good at the 1.95. People's
Yeah,
is good to
that's
us.
good.
But yeah, because it's 2.25 for the whole
Some
40
moved.
years.
Second.
He's give up waiting on Joel.
I won't do that one, because I have a question. To accept their bond anticipate, they're the only one that bid on it, right?
What?
You're the only, they're the only one that you called, the only bank you called, correct?
Right. Yeah, because we were just looking for interim financing, yeah, because Merchants is going through a change and we have a huge note with National Bank, and so we were under the impression that
As
they
you
were
know,
doing.
for full disclosure, I work for the bank, but I just think, we have a purchasing policy of $5,000 or more, it's gotta be approved by the board.
Right.
And I think with two banks in town, and People's not in town, at least, and the two banks in town supply somebody to sit on the revolving loan fund, I think it's at least, have the two banks that pay taxes in this town, to at least bid on, ask them, do you wanna bid on it or not?
Yeah, we
If they
really
come in
haven't,
more,
we
then
have
fine.
for long-term financing, we've put long-term financing out to bid historically, but we haven't for short-term financing, and so I automatically called Peoples because that's generally who can do short-term financing for a turnaround. Merchants wasn't doing long-term before, and obviously National Bank doesn't have a municipal finance office, so sometimes it's a little bit to get money through them, but we do long-term, but short-term, we haven't in the past, but if you'd like to change that practice, I'm
No,
certainly happy to let somebody know, Joel. I
will.
didn't think anything about it, Joel, that's my bad.
Okay,
I didn't think
I'll-
a thing about it. But we'll make sure we do that in the future.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Oh, this is a good one.
So there's a paper clip right here, so you're gonna have select board right here, on the front side of it, and then on the back. So you have to sign in 3 places, so.
3 places.
But that's a good point, Joel. We'll make sure we do that.
Yeah, this one is tricky.
Yeah, I had to find it out. I mean, I kind of know where it is, but this isn't this piece.
Well, you know what the correct is.
We're gonna clean it.
Right, this is
Devil
our
May,
street,
yeah.
yeah, so this is big.
Yeah.
And this, yeah, again, right behind, there's 2 lots back here,
Okay.
actually. So this one, for those people out there.
No accounts payable or license?
Yeah, there is. Oh, it's not enough? Yeah, it is. Oh, number 10. I was like, did I not? And I have a couple additions. So I got 2 more liquor
Just
licenses.
3 places?
Yep, 3 places.
Right.
That's the garage, that's a tent.
Gotta come up North Street, or that
Which people?
Well, Mike's barn.
Mike is
Oh.
connected onto
Yeah,
North Street
yeah,
and
that
his
comes
house
this
is-
way.
and his house is connected onto Meadow Lane.
Yeah, and the new house that Charles Bullock was in, same thing.
That, yeah, that's one of those.
All right.
3 spots.
Yep.
I remember when they put that water line in down through there.
They didn't?
They didn't?
No, they didn't go from here down to North Street. But it loops up through to my father's place and back around.
Yeah, that's what we were
That's
talking
why it
about
loops there,
today.
there's a loop there.
Pete Booger and I.
I assumed that it went through that, but we put a stub across the road and yeah.
Right, when we paved North Street years ago, we put the water line up through there. We put a stub there, but that was it.
No, then I don't have to sign it. You guys are on the hook, not me.
Yeah, the person who doesn't sign on the line, that's their personal guarantee.
No, I wrote you. I wanted you to look at that invoice. It's mainly for you.
Oh.
Make sure you look at it when you're done, please.
I tried to find it and then I had to be chaired,
Oh,
I'd
that's
stop,
right, no.
that's why.
Go back
So,
and look.
we got billed twice for that lumber.
Yeah, he
One-
made a
One
note.
through Maple Supply and one through his other business.
Exclusively.
I saw that, I wondered,
Well, I checked.
I had a question here for you, but
So Peter, or Peter put a note on it, one was a duplicate, so we'll pull it out.
All right, everybody, all set? Discussion water line connection to 2 properties on Devon Lane.
Okay, so as you can see by the map, I was a bit surprised when Cyrus came in and I realized that Devon Lane doesn't connect all the way to North Street. So I spoke to Peter Ryan, who's always a wealth of information, and he said that he remembers that and that the trustees ran out of money. So I reached out to Alan Heising and he sent them one of the little attached maps saying that they'd stubbed it basically from North Street to Devon when they were doing the North Street project so that someone wouldn't have to cut into North Street. So if the select board ever, wanted to loop the system, they could do that. So I called Mike Ledoux and asked him where he was connected. And he said his trailer was connected via an easement to North Street through the Nelsons. And his other place, the barn, was connected to Meadow Lane. So he was connected in both locations. And I talked to Peeker about it and I reread the water ordinance. And the ordinance does not require you to extend that. You could, whether or not Alan could, if his son bought the lot, he could grant him an easement. I'm not sure which way it's closer for them to connect to Devon or to North Street. But I did a little bit, and Peeker, this is where I'm gonna need your help. I went back and looked at a 2014 when we hired, I think Masterson's was the low bidder, and we did those repairs in town.
Yep.
So he had a price, and because I was trying to figure out if that was approximately 500 feet, and I think in 2014 it was $62 per linear foot for I think it was maybe a 4-inch, but I guess it probably doesn't really matter, right? Once a hole is a hole. So I'm assuming that that included the labor. So I'm assuming maybe now, if that was 14, maybe even if it's $80 per linear foot.
What'd we pay for the chunk we put in at the fire station?
Oh, I didn't look at that one. I looked at, I was looking at was the one we did on Mountain View. And I was like, and then I'm like, oh, you dingbat, you directionally bored that. So I was like, that's not comparable. I can't remember. So I didn't pull that one. I pulled that 2014 one. It was
I want to say when you're in pavement, it's more like, it's closer to $100 a foot.
Well, that's what I was thinking 80, because that was my question was, I said no engineering, pavement included, question mark, because I was figuring even at $80 a foot, that's like $40,000. And so the situation is this, until we get,
A request?
no, he's, he came in and Alan was great and we had a great conversation with it about it. It's just the fact is, to be frank, you don't have the money. We don't have the money to dump $50,000 in to loop those. While I'm totally in favor of looping the system whenever you can, and maybe it's something you could do next year or in 2 years, but right now I don't see it. And so the options become, if you do not do it, then the options become perhaps, since they own this property, they could grant themselves an easement through their own property, and then the people that bought the other line could probably connect to Devon Lane, just could go in the town's right of way. A town could grant them an easement. Or the same thing, depending on the location right here, if it was closer for this property to connect to Devon Lane than North Street, maybe the town could grant them permission to do it in the right of way.
Well, if he grants him an easement to go Mr. Lathrop's, you gotta watch out for the sewer and can't be within so many feet of the sewer.
Right, I'm just thinking that's what Mike did. Look how far he went to connect to North Street from his trailer. So,
Well, it's gotta be shorter to go to
Meadow Lane.
to go to Devon Lane.
Where is the curb stop here?
Well, if you flip this over, it's kind of hard to tell. I just saw right here, he's showing it comes up a little bit and it says cap for future extension.
Oh, no, I was talking about the barn, Mike's barn.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know where his curb stop is.
They wouldn't be able to tie into that line though.
No, they'd have to connect
I
to
think
Devon.
Mike's barn was tied in to North Street years ago when it was just the farm.
No, he said he's connected to, he said the trailer's connected to North Street and the barn's connected to Meadow Lane.
Was Rawl connected to?
Rawl had water there when we farmed it there.
Yeah.
So that definitely didn't come from
so maybe the
There was
trailer.
no Meadow Lane or Devon Lane.
Maybe the trailer and the barn came off from North Street.
That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, could be, Joel. And the house goes to Meadow Lane.
the
Yeah,
new
could be.
house.
The new house,
The
yeah.
new house goes to Meadow Lane.
So I think he's closer to connect to Devonville than, and I'm not sure it runs in the middle of the road. But if he has to connect a service line, then in the past, when we've done service lines, they're responsible for paving. The other thing is, I don't know, the last time we paved Devon Lane, it seems like it's in good shape. I don't know, trenching that up, but, and I'm not sure, I'd have to look and see what side, if Devon Lane's on that side or this side, but I'm assuming we can grant him permission within our right of way to install his water line.
Is there any possibility of getting him permission to drill a well?
I think because we have water, he would have to pay the.
But he doesn't.
I believe that we have some ordinance, I'm not 100% sure, but if you drill a well, you still have to pay the minimum water fee.
Well, the other question would be is if Mr. Lathrop subdivides this, he's probably gone through state, and the state probably says they're connecting to town water.
I'm sure, I wrote him a letter saying that we had water for them to
So then he's got a
support.
state permit, and the permits probably says you have town water, you have to connect. I mean, if he was gonna go with well, he'd have to amend his permit.
Yeah, and I think that if I'm, recently.
I don't believe.
The water ordinance says that they have to make a written request of the select board, if they wanna drill a well, they have to request it from the select.
Because there is a couple of wells in the village.
Right, but they still pay,
But I think they still pay the minimum.
They still pay the minimum water fee.
Yeah, I'd have to reread the ordinance to be clear on
That's
that.
the Ezra, we call that the Ezra Dyke rule.
Yeah, so
But again,
I'm not sure that.
Yeah, I mean, he puts a well in there, and then he's got that 200-foot
isolation.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
I think he'd
So,
prefer to connect, he's just
Yeah,
wanted
he
to
wouldn't
know.
have-
First, this 4 inches, what we've been,
Septic is in
we
the
talked about a few years ago. Didn't we get a permit or a grant from, and we got a study from Du Bois and King, remember, to run the sidewalk up by Lucille Claude's where it ends? It's 4 inch from there down to here, and that was one of the lines we looked at updating to a 6 or an 8. It was before your, I think it was before your time.
Of that. I'm sorry, I don't have
I
any.
know it was before your time as administrator, and it might have been built when, I got here when Bill just got started.
Yeah, I don't
Do
even
you remember
remember
that
that
conversation?
conversation.
There's some study somewhere that we wanted to do
Where's Lucille Claude Jones?
by just before.
Neil's, the next one from Paul Neil's.
Yeah, Paul Neal's old,
yeah,
where was
yeah.
that hydrant that leaked there and
Is leaking.
Well, I know we talked about that. We looked at that on a road
Trip
tour,
a
but
few
we,
years
but we
ago.
never did get money for it. No, he
No, we
give
didn't
us
get
the-
money for it,
just
but I thought
to
we
do a
had,
study,
we
no.
wanted to do, upgrade that 4 inch, cause it ends at Pleasant Hills 6 inch, and it goes from 4 down to here.
It could be, I know you
And we
did
wanted to
have.
upgrade that to 6 or an 8.
Yeah.
And then put sidewalk down, cause we had the schools telling us we got kids that are walking down Meadow Lane.
Yeah, you did, you're absolutely
Remember?
right. You talked about that on a road trip, and that I do
And then
remember.
part of that was doing
Yeah.
with that mountain water, not dumping it.
Yeah.
Remember, we wanted to go through Pleasant Hills all the way down through Masterson's with
Right.
the drainage back to North
So,
Street.
you're right, and I mean, and honestly, it just comes down to money. The fact is, you know, if we're, and I'm not including any engineering in this, so if we're saying if it's $100, but I'm guesstimating that it's 500 feet, I mean, it's just,
Now, what is it just to, if we did a stub down to, or kind of where it says no in water, right in there where that garage is?
well,
Those
if-
are the lots.
I mean, cause you can see where it, if you,
See, if we stub from here down to here halfway,
if you,
We'd be better off to come from the other end, it's shorter.
it could be bigger, I don't know
I
exactly
mean,
which
cause I
way.
was just looking at this, if you flip it over North Street, this gives you an idea, he capped it right here in Devon Lane, so it's,
I remember when they did that across there, they put the
yeah,
water
so
line
they
up
wouldn't have
through.
to trench it, yeah.
Yeah. And
It's all about money, and it's not
It's
saying that in a year or two, it would,
solution,
in a year or
but we
two,
certainly
wouldn't
don't
be,
have
it would be
45
perfect, and we'd love to loop it, and it would be the time to do it. It's just, right this minute, if we can't do
I
it.
think if we do allow them to hook on, I would say we allow them to hook on up on Devon Lane and come down the right of way and run both lines at the same time, because there's no sense in digging that ditch twice.
Right.
so you're saying Peter put a 6 or an 8 in there?
No, I'm
No,
saying put in
just the service
two
line.
3/4 inch service lines.
Oh,
Until
Right.
that's
well,
the time
when
we
it-
upgrade that.
When we upgrade, then they would be tied back into that.
would you be more willing to talk about, I won't say, so you're saying is we'll let them hook on over here and they cover the cost of the digging and the 2 service lines of an inch, quarter inch or 3/4 inch
Maybe
copper?
2 3/4 inch.
Copper line,
So they're gonna handle all that cost, right?
which you would make anybody do.
Right? Or would this be the time to sit down and, I won't say cut a deal, they don't like that, I don't mean that politically, but to say, you know what, we got a trench open, we've been always wanting to loop that. You pay for the trenching and we'll buy the 6 inch pipe down to there.
Well, then we gotta pave it and everything.
They're gonna, well, someone's
No, they
gotta pay
won't,
for it.
they'll only have to pave just across the intersection there, just the road cut to get out into the right of way.
So they're gonna come down, then go down the south side of the road?
That would be my,
Depends on, we'll have to see what side the curb stops are in, so they're gonna have to, yeah, they'd have to.
well, they're
whatever's
gonna have to be
closest.
on that side of the road anyway,
Yeah.
otherwise they're gonna have to cross the road
Cross the road
twice.
again.
Right, exactly, if it's all
So
right.
right
Definitely,
here and
if this-
down
Yeah, if this pipe happened to be on this side, they would just go straight up, but it depends.
I mean, my logic was there, you're digging a line,
Yeah,
you're putting it 6, 8 feet deep, you might as well fill it with
Why
like,
can't it come off this way and,
Yeah,
It
that's what,
can, yeah, that's what
yeah.
we're saying, is have whatever the
but
shorter
not
is.
dig the pavement?
you gotta come out of the, right,
Yep,
yes.
exactly, that's
Yeah.
exactly what he's
Yeah.
saying, yep, is just do one trench cut and then,
Yeah.
but he'd come through here and that would be, you know, it's a long service line. And then I guess when you do go ahead and loop the system, then you would,
It's no longer a service line than what was up to Wells's old house up there, that.
oh, Heath Road,
Yep, that went all the way up to
Oh.
Peter Jackman's.
you're right, that is a long service
Yeah.
line.
You know, there's,
yeah. I'm just thinking, we know we've been wanting to loop that at some time, but
Yeah, and
you know, the service lines for the 3 houses down
Hidden Drive?
No, by the Lord's Prayer Rock. They come all the way. They come all the way from. No, they come all the way from the top of the hill.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea. Wow. Yeah, so
Well,
I've heard, so there's obviously
Drake Woods Road doesn't have a main
historical
going through there?
pattern of it then, so.
Just 3 service
All right.
lines. Okay.
Because it came
That's
down
right.
to the
Something
reservoir.
like Ted's Nelson's old place, there's 3 shut-offs
Yeah.
right there.
Okay.
You're right.
I can, I can let Alan, leave.
So they might be able to bore that though.
Well, I
3/4, they
think
might
it
be
would
able to
be-
bore that 2 3/4, wouldn't they?
Well, wouldn't it be cheaper for them to trench cut it than to
Yeah.
actually bore?
Oh, I
We're
don't
not
know.
gonna ask them to
We're
do
gonna have to
anything.
dig it up anyway, to make a connection at the corner.
I think they're talking about down the right away, I think.
Yeah.
And they just have to work out their
Yeah.
logistics and schedule
Why
with
would you
Pete.
trench that?
You know, Pete
Or bore
being
that,
the
it's so
roadway.
much more expensive.
Yeah,
than
no,
trench.
I wouldn't, no.
Yeah, you're right, it would be ideal, but I'm not sure
More
you can
configured.
ask them to do that. We've never asked anyone else to do
No.
Joel. But you're right, it would be clean. If they wanted to, you wouldn't say no.
Do you need a motion for that, or like what we just discussed?
No, that's
the other
fine.
day?
I was just looking for guidance. I didn't know what you wanted to do.
All right, we're on to 7. Award upper notch bid per recommendation of the road foreman and town administrator.
So the low bidder was Masterson's. Masterson's, and we actually only received 2 bids. One was Masterson's and one was Heffernan Brothers Aggregate, which is Peaker. Peaker did not bid on the entire project. He bid on just the addendum. We had 2 options. One was the entire project and one was the hourly rate of the machine, and Masterson's was the low bidder on both. So, so the road foreman and I would ask that you award the bid to Masterson's.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
But thank you for bidding.
Discussion of Martin appraisal,
Yep.
service appraisal for 18.8 acres of.
So this is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I only gave you the little photograph.
Yeah.
This is the entire appraisal, which I figured you didn't, you know, if you want to see the comps and whatever, you can certainly do that. So obviously, we still have somebody it's right here, Joel, I think this is you,
Okay.
that's interested in purchasing the property. So now that we have an appraisal done, I'm assuming that you want to go forward with advertising it for sale. And I would assume that obviously we're not going to get a realtor, that we could put it out ourselves, ad in the newspaper, I don't know how else you would like to advertise, but we'd like to get that moving. Because we need to put it out to bid for a period of time, and you can accept bids to a date certain. And it seems like you might want to put it out to bid for, I would say, 30 days.
Yeah.
And then, see what you get for bids. And
So what do we,
Are we putting a value on it when we submit it? I mean, when we.
well, I mean, in the
ask for
past, we've
bids?
always talked about, I mean, we said what the appraisal was, and we've put it out, you know, we've obviously made that public now that we've paid for it. It's obviously $185,000. So, they could come in and look at the appraisal if they wanted to.
and what is it gonna cost us to clear that? $2,000 an acre?
A little bit over $2,000, yeah, was what they said with the fire station. And, but since that was based on the CPI, it changes a little bit. So I can't remember if it was 22 Peaker, I'm sorry, I don't remember off the top of my head right now, but it was a little over $2,000 that we'll have to pay the state back because we're not hanging on to it. I'm sorry, I should have been.
So right around $40,000 it's gonna cost us.
So that'll drop though, if we don't sell this for 6 months, it'll drop a little bit, right?
It depends on the CPI, it doesn't
Oh.
mean it's gonna drop.
Okay.
So,
It says 31 months. so-
I am happy to put it out to bid for 30 days and see what you get. And do you have any suggestions as to where we could advertise besides Addison Independent? Okay.
Yeah.
7 days.
Costume, I'm gonna like.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, maybe Craigslist? Do that for free, right?
Yeah.
Craigslist, Front Porch Forum, Addison
Eagle?
Independent. The Eagle.
I'd like to see it go maybe 60 days. But
Well, let's go 30 and see what we get.
Yeah.
Sure, we can always turn it down.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
I'd agree with that then.
All right. Will do, and if you're interested in reading the whole thing, you just knock yourself out. I have a photocopy that I'm happy to give you. You can take it right home with you. So it has all the comps and
Just in
everything.
case I can't sleep.
Yeah, just in case. You could have read the audit then, I guess.
Need a
That
motion.
was what.
Need a motion for
we
that?
did for the past 2 weeks.
We probably need a motion for that.
We should
Yes.
probably,
I'll make a motion, then we advertise the property at Stony Hill, Lovers Lane corner for 30 days. And the following things you wrote down there.
Yep, Eagle has.
Second.
any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to approve minutes of May 1st, 2017.
Who seconded that?
Ted.
Ted.
And that's the rubber line, so we know about?
That's 18.08
18.08
acres.
acres.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for May 1st.
Second.
Any errors or
I
omissions?
didn't see
I
any.
didn't either. Good.
Pace to ask a couple questions while we're going through, huh? All those in
You just
favor?
set the bar.
Yeah. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
29.
Motion carried. Authorize accounts payable warrants of liquor license.
Can I ask one question on the accounts payable?
Yep.
There was an invoice on the warrant for Clark's Truck Center for $141.35.
Yep.
There's no memo, and I couldn't find an invoice in there. So I didn't know if it was a mistake or if it was really went in there and I just.
Okay, let me, all right, let's flip through. Yeah, I got it right there, customers call great septic.
Says there's.
Yeah, 141.35, February 16th. I see it highlighted on her statement, but, yep, it's right here, Michelle. It's underneath the statement.
I just bypassed it, okay.
Yep.
All right.
DEF bulk FL, I have no idea what that even is, but,
Oh,
Yeah.
Fluid that.
I don't know.
55 gallon.
Yeah, don't worry, read it.
Gallons of diesel fuel,
Yeah.
or not diesel fuel, the mixture.
Is the Marlin
Horseshoe.
Controls one, is that a speed cart sign?
It's who Martin controls?
Marlin's. Marlin Controls.
Marlin
It says
Control.
speed sign. I thought maybe it was a doghouse, but
Oh, that's,
The police department.
it's the
Yeah,
police
is that one they
speed
got the
cart?
grant for, I was
yeah, it's
told?
one they got the grant for. It's not a speed cart. It's a sign.
That sign up.
Yep.
Tells you you're speeding.
Speed.
It's one like up in Heinsberg.
And it takes pictures, right?
So that's $86,197.06, Tasha, is the warrant. Yep. And Tasha, the other two, I had listed the liquor licenses and for Pocock Rocks, and two more are Fiddlehead Brewing Company and Farmers and Foragers LLC. That's the other one that came in today. So I didn't get them on the, so you can see them. So those are all for Stonecutter Spirits is at Lulu's, and that liquor license, and let me tell you, I have it right here. So I actually ran that one by the police chief because it's not for Pocock Rocks.
It's a full-blown liquor license.
Yeah, no, it's a, let me see.
Special permit?
It's a special permit. So what they're doing is they're holding this quote-unquote pop-up
Oh, is that the sign in the
bar.
window?
Yeah, that's the big sign in the window, yep. So what they wanted, so I sent it to Kevin to make sure he was all okay with it, because the serving time was until 11:30. But Kevin said it was fine. He said Hatch serves that late, so he didn't have a problem with it. So that one is Stonecutter Spirits, and that's a 2-day event that they're gonna be at Lulu's doing this pop-up speakeasy bar. Then Lincoln Peak Vineyard, Halyard Brewing, Zero Gravity, Fiddlehead Brewing, and Farmers and Foragers LLC are all looking for Pocock, and all those hours were the same, which was the 3 to 8. Oh, here it is, right on top of it. So we'll be offering for the back to Stonecutters. It's a 1920s style speakeasy pop-up bar. And they want to serve from 4 p.m. to 11:30 p.m., May 18th and May 19th. And that was the one I called Kevin about. It says they'll be offering free tastings, selling full pours and bottle sales at Lulu's, 11 Main Street, Bristol. So that's the stone cutter.
And it's from what time to what time?
4 in the afternoon to 11:30 at night. And so, like I said, that's when I asked Kevin about. And he said it was fine. He said it was on 18th and 19th of May, so it's a Thursday, Friday. And so he didn't have a problem with that because he said that, you know, obviously Hatch was open and serving.
So I'll go down there and have a taste.
No ice cream for you that night. So, anyway, so those are all of them.
We don't need.
These are all special event permits. What happens is.
We don't sign those.
Nope, you just approve them and then we sort of will approve and Jen signs them.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we approve the special permits, special occasions, no, special
Special event permits.
event permits for Stonecutter Spirits, Lincoln Peak Vineyard, Halyard Brewing, Zero Gravity, Fiddlehead, and Farmers and Foragers.
Second, somebody?
Second.
Anybody? Yes.
What's the cutoff date for my Pocock vendors in terms of getting their liquor license or the special event permit?
Are you the
Sure.
17th?
Yes.
So this 12th would be and that's pushing it
I know, because it has to go to the state.
to the
right?
DLC, yeah. So
Probably
the
the
May
29th.
29th would be
Okay.
the ideal.
I think that's what I have on the form. There's only like maybe 2 or 3
I was
left.
gonna say, they've approved, what do you have, like 15?
14.
Is there food? Are you gonna serve food?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It's just,
Comes in a
Is
bottle.
it just booze?
it's just
Comes in a bottle.
No, there's gonna be.
Liquid calories.
Hydraulic sandwich.
I wasn't sure if it was a,
Burger in a bottle.
Burger in a bottle.
it's
Yeah, I
supposed to be a
know.
family event.
Right. No, it is. It's a
I'm
family
just
event.
kidding. But
The
yeah.
kids are gonna sleep.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Right.
Opposed, nay.
Oh, I'm saying, I'm sorry. Second again, I was
Wait,
reading something. Aye, yeah.
Motion carried. Select board concerns. Joel.
I see in the bills tonight, we paid the sheriff's department just to do some work on us behalf on a.
For me, yeah.
Yeah, for a certain vendor.
Yeah.
I just gotta ask, a couple months ago, or a month or so ago, there was one from Kevin Brennan on the whole case again with that same sidewalk vendor.
That was a long time ago that we paid his
Are
bill.
we just
I'm
trying to
getting my
get
money back.
blood out of a stone?
No, you know what? Once there is a judgment made, then I don't care if I have to put a lien on property that's owned in Bristol. That's our money, and we're getting it back. They
And it's what,
breached.
$700-800?
Yeah, it's a breach of contract. They signed that contract. They
We
agreed.
get
with the
$700
terms.
worth of sand and then not pay them for it, so we'll call it even.
You know, we're not buying sand from them. We're buying.
I know we're
from
not,
around
I know we're
the-
not, I don't think we're ever gonna see it, that's all.
No, but I don't know. I think we'll see it. But
Well, you put a lien on the property, they can't sell it without. taking
right,
it.
exactly. And you know, and they actually came in and said they were going to pay, and I said okay, and I explained on how you go with the small claims court argument. I said this is you go back, you tell the judge that yes, you agree you owe the money, and that this is the terms in which you can pay it, and then they didn't do anything. So
And then, are we all set insurance wise for the bike parade? That bike parade that
oh, I was.
People power.
people power parade?
For us, it worked out fine because we don't have.
So we got the receipt or got a certificate of
The
insurance?
street, there, it didn't end up applying to us because the streets, they're following all the rules of the road, so they didn't need one for the parade.
They're
And
staying
they're
on the
on
sidewalk.
rec club. They're staying on the road, they just have to follow the rules on the road. They're gonna obey all the traffic signs, and they're on the rec club property.
Yeah, from the,
Yeah,
I thought they were having something at the end.
they were, and they're gonna
On
get
the
us,
park.
yeah, not on the park. No,
No,
Back to the
they're
rec
at the
club.
rec club.
Back to the rec, okay.
Yeah.
And then, I saw the letter to the water, some 20-odd water users.
Yep.
How did that happen? Just,
Just a mistake. You get interrupted while you're doing the deposit, and a deposit slip was made out, it got sent to the bank, but it didn't actually get posted to the account. It happens. Somebody interrupts you, you know what I mean? You fall out of the process, and we figured it out right away, and went in, made all the corrections, and then sent a letter saying,
Okay.
hey, we're really sorry
I
this
just
happened.
wondered.
And people were very good, you know?
okay.
human error. It
All right,
happens.
that's all I have.
Ted?
It happened again last week, making a deposit at the National Bank of Newbury at the outside. And pulling around the corner of the building, and somebody is sliding down the alley about 30 miles an hour. Fortunately, it's happened to me enough so that I really pay attention. I don't know if anybody else has had a problem with this.
We've had a few
or-
complaints,
Or
Ted.
if I'm being singled
Nope.
out.
That baby.
We've had a few complaints, and actually, we are just beginning to have some conversation with the gentleman behind me in Palmville Real Estate about possibly closing the alley and making it a little pop-up park.
Rather than put up a parabolic mirror?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, if we don't, then we'll put up the mirror, but we're having that conversation, correct, Ian?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
My other concern was, as everybody knows, that big tree fell down by the Lord's Prayer rock. And somebody started looking at the rock, and there's a big diagonal crack going across the
I was
face
gonna
of the
ask
rock.
that too.
There are two groups. One says, the tree hit it and cracked the rock. Other people say, the crack's been there right along. I can't tell you how many years I scraped the letters out of that Lord's Prayer and painted them back in. And I don't remember the crack being there. So I got up on the rock and looked, and yeah, probably the crack was there, but it seems to have gotten a lot bigger. And the other reason that I think it's gotten a lot bigger is that there's no paint coming down inside the crack from the letters.
Oh, yeah, because I was
Okay.
gonna show you this. There's a picture of Andrew and there's the crack
Yep.
behind him in the.
So I climbed up on the face of the rock and looked at it, and it is quite wide. It's, you know, in places it's 3/8 of an inch wide.
And I mean, as water gets in there and freezes, it's just gonna get bigger.
What I'm afraid of is it's gonna spall the face of the rock off and ruin the Lord's Prayer. So I talked to Mike Ledoux, and he's gonna have a look at it and come up with a possible solution. He thinks putting an epoxy grout
That's what I was gonna say, it's an epoxy.
of an appropriate color may be the way to prevent any further damage. But it's pretty ugly.
It got
And
a
the
lot of
crack
attention.
goes around three sides of the rock, continuous. Yeah, and it's widest on the face.
On
of
the face,
Lord's Prayer.
Yeah, it was
Where
funny.
the
I
Lord's
saw the
Prayer is,
picture.
yeah. So,
Well, thank you for doing it. It was funny because we all of a sudden got a million phone calls like, what? And I'm like,
Yep.
And I talked to Pete Boobier. Pete, this is Pete. Therese. Tree hitting that rock is not cracking that rock.
Right.
I said, all right, Pete, I'm not saying that, Pete. I'm telling you what people are calling me saying. And so he went down and cleaned the rock up, or cleaned the tree up.
clean the tree up.
Yeah, and then someone came in and said, you know, maybe it's about time you move that rock. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
Oh, haven't we heard that?
I was like,
We heard that in the 70s and 60s.
I was like,
Fred
okay.
Gary
Fred
Orvis.
Jackman and Gary
Yeah.
Orvis were gonna move it, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
Did
you
it
know,
work?
I'll let the
tree-
select board know you want to move it.
Tree break the picnic table?
Yes.
And I was gonna say, I thought it broke the picnic table.
Yes, and that's the fire chief's Eagle Scout project. He was a little sad.
Tell me I have to do another one.
He was a little sad. We're like, don't just maintain it
Greg,
forever.
would you send him a letter and ask him
Yeah.
what the warranty is on that?
I helped him on that.
Yeah, we were like,
he's-
Derek White's an Eagle Scout, always an Eagle Scout, right? Don't you have some ownership on that? But he was very sad.
That it,
But
Ted?
thank you for looking into it, Ted. And the epoxy could.
I haven't been up there in a while.
You set, Ted?
Yeah.
Pete?
I'm good.
Michelle?
The only thing, did you ever hear back on this? From Patrick? Because I thought you had said you'd emailed Patrick too.
Reen.
Patrick Reed.
I did, I'm sorry, I was like, wait a second. Yes, Patrick, we're talking about the state and what they're gonna do about education and teachers.
and teachers.
So I spoke to Patrick, because the first plan was obviously, like we talked about the last select board meeting, was to move the, move teacher retirement out of, or.
Retirement or
Retirement. Insurance, excuse
Insurance.
me, out of the.
Out of the general fund.
Yeah, out of the general fund into the ed. And now their idea is that they're going to, mandate that the school come up with a savings, which would be about $250,000. So I called the superintendent, Patrick Reed, and said, so how can we help you? You know, what can we do? And he said that he felt pretty good about it between the whole 5 schools, that they felt like they would be able to negotiate, you know, some sort of savings within the budget. He said, remember, Therese, that's $250 coming out of the first 6 months. So, and at the time, we thought that it was a done deal already, that the legislature Senate had voted on it. When Patrick and I were speaking, I said, do you want me to call write to them? And he said, I think it's too late. And then I got home, watched the news, and they had adjourned till what, Wednesday?
I think you're talking about 2 different things.
Yeah.
You're talking about the health insurance,
Right.
$250,000 per school.
Health insurance, there's 2 different things. They're talking about the retirement and the
The
health
retirement
insurance.
fund has always been funded by the general fund, and they want to refund it by the education fund now.
Right. So
The 26 million they want to save is out of the.
okay, so yeah, I'm sorry, I thought we were talking about the health insurance.
Either one of them, pick one.
Well, so we'll continue with the health insurance. So that's the health insurance right now, is they're just waiting. Patrick thinks that they're gonna be mandated by the state to basically cover this nut. And he's feeling that they might be able to do it, and that we wouldn't have to see some big, you know, tax increase. But obviously he's hopeful, and he'll find out. I have not found out any more about I think it's 518 or whatever it is, about whether or not they're moving the teacher retirement into the ed fund. I don't know. I haven't heard yet what the deal is. I was trying to follow both issues, but I don't know what they're gonna do. I haven't heard that one yet, and I haven't received another legislative update on that. So I wasn't sure in a way if they bailed on one or move it to the other, but either way, school's in a tough boat, and I feel bad for him. And I did reach out to him because I think it's the right thing to do for the school and the town to be more in sync about, you know, if they have a tax problem, we have a tax problem. As I said to Patrick, you know, if you're not feeling the love, feel free to come down here November 5th and April 5th. And, you know, but certainly if there's anything that the town can do, and if you're aware of any projects that were coming up for us, we always want to know what they're up to, when they're going to come out with another, you know, vote to do more work to Mount Abe. All those sort of things impact us because we try to either get out in front of them or hold off if we can. So, but he was great and called me right back and gave me, you know, information. I just told him if there's anything we could do to let us know.
That's it for me.
Joel, you had another one?
Just one thing, I notice every once in a while, we'll put in the paper or something that, or you'll, in your epistle, and I know we only see it, but you'll put in, and it's only had you don't do it spitefully, but you'll say
I might.
that Peter Bouvier, the town road foreman did this, the town road foreman do that. And you know, to me, it's his whole crew. It's the road department.
Oh,
did
right.
this, so
Yeah.
I just like
sure.
to acknowledge that. And just,
Oh, yeah,
you
absolutely.
know, I know you don't mean no harm about it whatsoever.
No.
You think the world of them, so just, and then I saw the last couple of front
You
porch
said
forum-
one thing.
So I'm sorry, rec department had 2 or 3 ads looking for help for like the summer director or something. Saw that on front
Camp
porch forum.
directors.
Camp
Camp
directors. and
directors.
stuff.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, those are just standard things. That
Yeah, because remember this, they did just get a grant for, Camp Summerama. I was gonna say it wrong, which was a new camp that people have been clamoring for years to have more of an all-day, you know,
Right.
program. And now they have it, and they've had very few people sign up for it. So they're re-advertising it again to try to get more, to more kids, or at least now they have a spattering, and they kind of need them to be at least 10 in 1 week. So
I
could be
just
for
was-
that. Also, they might be looking for, so I didn't see the front porch forum posted, but my guess is other summer camps, you know, like we do river camp, and
Right.
sometimes they're looking for people
I
to
just was
help out with
wondering
that.
with her now, the budget being cut and being back to just school days.
Oh, it's just
Starting July 1, how's that working? Has she got a plan to move over there during the summer months?
Yeah, well, that was the plan, was Camp Summerama would be used there, and there'd be some teen programming also out of there once a week with Brian in the evening, and of course in the summertime they use the skate park a lot. So yeah, no, so it was probably more that in that vein that she was looking for assistance.
Oh, okay. All right.
Just summer stuff.
Yeah, I'm done.
You done? Okay. One thing, a pet peeve of mine is people working in the road and not having signs. And there was a paving outfit that did a bunch of work last week.
Plank Road Crew.
I don't know the name,
Witherby.
Witherby.
Where?
that really doesn't matter, but they did 3
Oh,
driveways.
they were in
They did 3
Bristol?
they did 3 driveways on Plank Road, and they
Did 4.
did 4 driveways on Plank Road, and they stayed parked right in the road
Yeah.
with absolutely no signage. And I just think they should be sent a letter just letting them know that if they're gonna work in the right of way, that they need to use proper signage. If they're gonna be in the road, they need proper signage and.
Yeah, no, that's, I.
They did have a lot of equipment in the road.
Okay, I can ask, yeah, and I also will be curious if, any of the road foreman, any of the road crews stopped by and saw that and asked them to do that too.
I probably could have
I
stopped and
saw the
said
cruiser
something.
guy go by 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the BPD is not versed in MUTCD standards, we've had that.
I just, you know, they've done some work for the town, and when they did the work for the town, I know Pete supplied the flaggers for them, so they know they're needed.
Was that the people who did
In
the little
front of
piece?
the-
Oh, okay, I think the name sounded familiar.
So I just,
Yeah,
you know, it's not a busy road, but if they think they can do the same thing on another road, it wouldn't be good.
absolutely, no, I agree, that's my pet peeve, is people that don't have, you know, proper signage. Ian has his hand.
And
Yes.
Related to that, is there any ordinance or anything for Main Street when the scaffolding was going up for the Orbis's buildings? There was sort of nothing that was put out. Like I walked back and forth and I walked with Max up and down there, and it was literally like a guy pulled up his truck and by himself started unloading tons of heavy scaffolding. There was no signage, there was no redirection of pedestrians elsewhere. Like you literally, I had no idea what it was. I mean, I knew what it was because I knew that work was being done, but there was no indication to anybody, and there were people sort of walking around him.
Yeah.
And then he set up the first road, and then he was walking on just a single plank carrying stuff. And I was just curious, like if someone walked under and he'd actually just dropped a piece on them,
Right.
what would
He
be the
would-
consequences of that, other than maybe someone getting hurt?
Right, it was certainly his proof of insurance. Actually, I had received an email from the Orvises who were out of state asking if he'd started it. They sent it to Eric, and Eric was out of state, so he sent it to me, and then I said, well, I look out the window, I'm like, nobody's there, but I'll check on it. And then 2 hours later, I look out, and you know, there's like a bunch, so I went over and met the gentleman, and
Okay.
I think that when the project was explained to Eric, that they didn't fully understand exactly how big the scaffolding would be. So I went over and spoke with him. A very nice man, took the road foreman another time and talked about, made sure it was lit, and he explained how it was going to be, made sure that, you know, we were, made sure that we had a proof of insurance, etc. So it was kind of, I don't think the owners knew exactly what they were getting.
Okay.
And an exact startup time. So we went over to see if we needed to reroute pedestrians, because if we were gonna have to close and redirect, and at that point he had, you know, enough up, and there was enough to get through, so that you could get a stroller, you could get a wheelchair, and then we asked him to light it, and the Orvises were back later that day, and so they installed the lights.
Okay.
So yeah, it was kind
It's
of
a case of us finding out what's happened
Yeah.
after the fact too.
Yeah.
You know, it's-
Yeah, I mean, just him putting it up that first layer, it was still like stuff could have fallen through. It was just
sure.
like 2 planks,
Yeah,
even
no.
after the first layer.
I-
And I talked to Ray about it, and she's like, she went to school in New York, where you see it all the time in terms
Exactly.
of walking under scaffolding, but for me, it was like quite scary,
Yeah.
even just by myself.
Yeah.
Thinking like, what if he's up the second level and just drops something right through?
Yeah.
But it's a hard area to redirect traffic, because you can't,
We
you have to go
would've had to
down the
close
street
the
to cross.
sidewalk.
Well,
Yeah,
that's probably the first sign that should have gone up, sidewalk closed,
Well,
temporary.
we
Right.
talked about
Yeah,
it,
there
I
was
mean, I
no
talked
sign
about
on
it at the road forum, but yeah, like I said, I looked out the window, nothing, and then busy, then I'm like, oh, I gotta go across the street. He had the second layer up by the time, I think it was 4 hours.
That was just one guy too.
I
Like, There
know.
was a couple people, like, he was just balancing, so, I
Yeah.
don't know, that's.
He'd done it before.
Yeah,
Speaking of Main
Was
Street,
no
there
doubt.
are 2 moving pods out there.
That was gonna be my
they're
next
gone, they're
question.
supposed to be gone today. They had, someone had requested that, they actually contacted the police department, and the police contacted myself and Eric about any zoning, and just said, look, if the pods are gone in 2 days, you know, or gone by Monday, it was no big deal. They
Were
had
they
someone,
associated with that?
there was somebody who was moving out, no,
Oh,
nothing to do with it,
oh,
somebody was moving out of their apartment and asked if they could just block off those spaces and be gone, and I saw.
Pods did it, right?
And I saw somebody you know, all of a sudden I looked today, I was walking down at noon and there was a forklift going down Main Street with one of the pods. I'm
He
like,
was going
okay,
down,
must be there
he was
going.
going down Main Street, blocking Main Street to park him there.
Yeah, so he was picking them up today, so they did what they were asked to do.
Sorry, I have one more question. Just reminded me. For Pocock, we were thinking about doing like a kids thing, using some of the parking spaces that'll be open for that event and do like chalk drawings and stuff like that. Do I have to talk to the town about that? I mean, if it's chalk, we're not gonna use paint, it'll be chalk, so it'll wash away in the rain, but I didn't know if there was anything about that.
No.
Since it's like the
That'd be
base.
an issue.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, we haven't had a problem
Okay.
with that before.
There's no profanity or anything.
Yeah. Close it off, no.
All right, Therese.
Okay, so,
It's not much of it, way too early.
So Joel, this is kind of for you, well, actually the entire board, but Addison County Solid Waste, they were talking about Cheryl Brinkman, they wanted to come talk to the select board. They formed a municipal drop-off advisory committee to study the current town drop-off configurations and upcoming requirements due to the universal recycling law. And I said, I don't need you to come to the select board meeting, I need you to come to the land, you know, to the drop-off site and look at it and make your recommendations so we can see where, you know, what you think should be happening, because this is to deal with, I'm sure, the food scraps.
Food scraps, they want to put a barrel over there, and they've ordered some barrels that are bear-proof.
Yeah.
And I go, you know, our area is not very big over there.
Well, I told her in the email.
Right here in the village.
I emailed Cheryl and she said that if we came up with a couple dates, she'd try to get someone from the committee. And I said, look, my feeling, personal feeling is that R&L brings something, drops something and takes it with them. I said, we do not need increased rat population over there. So I said, I'm not in favor of dropping anything, and I'm not sure the road foreman's gonna allow that either, because it could just be in the way. I'd like to see R&L bring something in and take it with him.
That's what I suggested the last solid waste meeting.
Yeah.
He brings it every Saturday from 8 to 12, and
That's
your
right.
window of opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's just saying, so I don't know if there's any, if you could send me a note, I don't know, between, if you could just send me an email between camping and umping, is there a couple Saturdays?
That I could, oh, yeah.
All right, if you could, can you just make a note to send me
Sure.
an email and then I can
And,
get ahold of her?
Yeah, but she was meeting with, Jack was meeting with Darla and setting up a recycling, composting demonstration here, and that was up in the hall
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, in
I
April.
guess, but yeah, I just didn't have, anything, I just didn't want, I don't wanna see anything over
No.
there, I think it's just gonna be a bad idea, so she said, well, and I said, you know, the select board is fine, but you just need to come, I wanna see you at the site and get some real advice.
I think we just collect it, and take it up to the State House. They're the ones that wanted us to recycle our food
There are enough
scraps.
rats there already.
No.
So, then I had some from the fire chief. Saturday evening, the Bristol Fire Department held their annual recognition and awards night. A special evening where we thank all of those who serve, specifically those who have reached a milestone in the fire service or have gone above and beyond for the department. Equally as important, it's time to publicly recognize and acknowledge our significant others, friends, family members, etc., who support what we do each day and every day. Without their support, we would not be able to provide the level of service that we do. So it looks like firefighter Alex Bishop, Ryan Denneker, Chris Purley, and Carl Guile all received a pin for their 5 years of service. 10 years of service was Truck Captain Jarrett Kimball was honored. 15 years of service for Captain Amos Martin. And here's one for you. 60 years of service for Honorary Clerk Treasurer George Smith. And I know he was presented a special plaque and I got to see that. And it was beautiful and he was, I heard, very touched. NH Munsell Hose Hook and Ladder Company, Joel Bouvier was awarded an Outstanding Service Award. Most Training Hours Award went to James Goodyear, and Outstanding Contributor Award went to Amos Martin. So I think that's really nice, and really nice. Look at that, 10, 15, years of service, 60 for George, and I know that both, I'm sure all of you guys, how long have you served, Joel?
31.
27.
41.
41, that's terrific. Oh, it sounds so
Brett,
Did I
good.
say 7?
Over 700 hours.
700 years of service.
700 years of service.
Isn't that
in the
amazing?
whole department.
And I saw the picture of George and he couldn't have looked happier. That was such a great picture. I was so happy for him. So let's see. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was this illegal dumping site on the Upper Notch Road. So Brett LaRose had brought to our attention that there was trash down over the bank about 844 Upper Notch Road. So just before LaRose's camp on the right. And Brett being Brett, scaled it and got a hold of the road foreman, Peter Bouvier, to ask if he'd got some stuff up to the top would he take it? And Peter said, yeah, they'd done it before when Bert DeGraw lived up there. They'd cleaned it all up. So Brett did drag some up to the top, and he said he got down there and there was, mattress and box spring, a sectional sofa. He found a chair in the river that he said he broke in half. He got part of it out. The other part was so saturated that he couldn't physically get it out of the river. And he said trash, and he said just even more than he said that I even realized when I originally took pictures. So I did speak to the Conservation Commission the other night and asked them if they would be willing to help kind of organize a cleanup. They said they certainly would. I spoke to both the road foreman and the assistant road foreman, so Peter and Eric today, and I just feel like, I feel like we need to clean this up, and it's going to take tremendous effort. It's probably going to take, could easily take 20 people or more because the bank is steep and it cannot be kids. That, Peter's saying you're going to have a crew on the ground and then a crew up top. And so I'm hoping that the select board is going to be willing to pay some overtime for the road foreman if he's there, for any of the road crew members, because we're going to have, probably an excavator, some dump trucks, and obviously have to eat the cost to take it to Addison County Solid Waste. I did find some signage that we can put up that are, illuminated, that talk about signage, and I think that, we may have to take it a step further besides putting up the signage. We may have to invest in, I think we should invest in some game cameras and try to figure out who's doing this. I have called the Sheriff's Department, and here it is, and reported it to them. And so this is what the sign looks like, and it's right here, it's retro reflective, and it's 10 by 11, they're $24.50 each. I'm also gonna reach out, I think it's the Lathrop's Limited, and reach out to them and let them know it's there, but what obligation we have, I feel like, to clean it up. That's my personal opinion, but I don't know what you're feeling like, but we need to coordinate.
Didn't we just do this a couple of years ago too?
The town hasn't done it.
Bert did it
Bert
4 or 5 years ago.
More, probably been gone
that long.
I bet it's been 6.
7 or 8 probably.
Yeah.
But I thought we did something up that area since I've been on the board.
No, we've picked up stuff outside the road that, that when he brought it to the top, the town took it, but it was also Green Up Day, so if we did it on Green Up Day, and obviously we're gonna have to do this in the summer when it dries out. And, as I said to Peter, we need some people with some skill. We need road crew members, possibly maybe even a couple of fire department members, that understand about the safety of this situation.
Well, could we at least, I agree 100% doing this stuff and cleaning it up, and if we have to pay somebody, but maybe put an 8-foot tall chain link fence up on top, so you can't throw a couch up over. At least the big stuff won't get thrown down over that.
I talked to people, but that's the thing that Peter said.
Off
He said
that
we
pole.
drive them out of.
It's off, they pulled that pole off. And they threw it
There used to be stoves and refrigerators and everything
And there
else.
still is, and Peter has dug a trench in one place, and they're driving over that, so he's gonna redig another trench, and he's gonna do that up there. But what he said is, this bank is like a 60-foot drop, so what they're doing is, they're just backing up, they're listening for cars, and then they're pushing it out. And I asked Peter about a fence, and he said, Therese, first, obviously you gotta wing snow and certain things, but he said, it doesn't matter, even if I put guardrail or more or higher, they're just gonna pitch it over the top, and he said they're just listening for cars.
Couple game cameras.
I'd like to
would go a
game
long way.
cameras.
And I did.
And I don't think, do we need to put up a sign saying we've got game cameras?
What I'm hoping was maybe it would just be a deterrent, and I did report it to the Addison County Sheriff's Office, but
Well,
it's
the
not
thing
their
is
obligation
if
to clean
it
it up.
deters them, it may, if they think there's cameras, they may just move up the road.
Right.
Well, that's what Peter said. He said, drive them out of Bristol. Maybe they'll, he goes, unfortunately, they might end up in Lincoln or Ripton, but he
This
said.
stuff looked like it was fairly recent to it.
It's Brett felt it had been over time. It's probably been in the few years that we haven't done a cleanup but some of it was recent. He said there was,
Right near the camp?
down below the camp on the right. He said that there was new addition because he said there was calf carcasses there that weren't there the previous time he'd been up. So it's.
There is a sign there though. No
It-
dump,
I'm
no
sure.
dumping sign.
There probably is.
I don't think it matters how big the sign is.
No, I don't either.
No.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
So anyways, it's gonna be a process and I just wanted your permission I'd like to try to see if I could punt it to the Conservation Commission at least for organizing it, but I wanted to be sure that the select board was willing to pay for the dump charges, pay for any
think that's the least we could do.
overtime charges that, we had and.
Just pay for the dump.
Unless we do it on Green Up Day.
Right, we have to wait another year, and it just was so wet and everything to get it out of there. So Fire Chief and I met with Bay State Elevator. I had talked to Joel about this, and we signed a contract with Bay State Elevator to maintain the elevator. I think it's $200 a month, and it includes all the service, all the power.
$200 a quarter, right?
No, it's a month.
What you do a quarter one?
Well, because I talked to them about it, and that was my question. And after rereading those things, like you and I had talked about how the language in those things is crazy. If you went for the quarterly one, it doesn't cover your parts. It doesn't cover some of your service. And so it
doesn't get used enough to do a monthly, trust me.
Well, I mean, I
We
met
got 3 of them and only 2 of them. One of them is a master agreement. That's every month. That's at our main office. It gets used 4 floors constantly. But Virgins and Seymour Street, it's on 4 times a year, 220 of them a quarter.
Right, and that's what we looked at, was doing that or doing it less, and we met with them, and because of your exposure, it seemed like the better deal was to pay monthly and see what, because it's not including the parts. Now, how expensive is that stuff? Because the warranty's off June 1st, and then.
I mean, I've been 11 years at the main office, over 11 years, and it might be a light bulb in here, not the light bulbs up in the ceiling.
Yeah.
I do those.
Mm-hmm.
In the control panel, it might be a light bulb out or 2, but that's all they've ever done. Never a pump, never nothing.
Yeah, and but if it is.
If you don't have it, check yours if it says the master
It is the master agreement,
So
I
you're
know.
paying the top dollar one, yeah.
We're
That's
paying
20
$200 a month.
Yeah, $2,400 a year.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah,
a
for
lot.
something that gets
Yeah.
used
That
by
gets
one
used-
person
Yeah.
once a month.
My Virgins on Seymour Street,
Because I tried to do it less, less than, like you and I had talked about, less than.
Quarterly.
Quarter. Well, I can talk to him and tell him that, we want to do it a different period of time, but when I.
if that gets 5 to 10 years old, you might want to look at a master one then. But right now, that's new. I wouldn't.
Okay.
I would do a 4 times a year,
Sure, I don't
quarterly.
think our elevators
Quarterly.
do service at our office. We've had people get stuck in it.
Oh, jeez.
Stuck between the
All
floors.
right, so I'll reach out to him. And then Brookfield
I won't say
Generator.
anything, no, I'm
We
kidding.
looked at a couple of, yeah, really. So, we paid them this time, so we were able to pay for an annual deal so that they're gonna come and maintain.
Because I actually talked to the same guy that comes to visit mine.
Jim
Alden.
Bushy, he said that you did.
Right, but no, Alden comes and does your roof.
Yep, I just met with Alden
And
today,
he said, Joel, with amount that gets used, he said, I'd go quarterly.
and that's not what he told me today.
He didn't.
When I met him, he told me that we should
Good
have.
union man then.
That we should have the,
That means more money for them.
So Brookfield Generator, that's in the bills now, so they're gonna start taking care of the generator at the fire station, Holly Hall, and the water department. So we found someone to maintain them.
So,
that we
you mean
don't
this one
poison-
right here? Out here, Holly Hall?
Yep, Holly Hall.
This one comes with a year
Pump house.
contract though. Year.
Pump house,
Doesn't
yeah.
this one just barely got put in though, right?
Yeah, pump
So this
house.
one we're not paying for our service
Right.
contract yet, right?
Right. And
That'll
then
be next year.
Pump house, yes.
Yeah.
So we'll get all 3, so they'll start maintaining all, and they're also a maintenance contract too, so they'll come in and do
Correct.
all the maintenance. So, which would be nice because the pump house one has not had regular maintenance at all. So we've had to do some repairs to that. We had a mouse nest in there that died, killed it
I
last
didn't
year.
remember what what you paid for that, Kim. The one, the fire station and the one at the house.
It's in there. I can't remember. We did it today. Let's see. What else? Oh, Peter, I need you to sign the Transportation Advisory Committee appointment form for Peter Grant, and then the Addison County Regional Planning Commission full commission appointment form for Bill Sayre and Peter Grant. They were the appointments that you guys made in March, but they do theirs in July 1st, so I just need you to sign those. ACEC. Oh, so we received a merit award for Excellence Engineering Awards Dinner. So we received a call from Stantec, and the town of, I believe it's Stantec, received an award for the engineering of this project out here. And there is a dinner at the Stoke Lake Mountain Resort on Friday, June 9th from 5 to 8:30 p.m. And they want to know if one of you would like to go to accept the award. They're certainly going to be there.
What project? Which project?
The street light? No, we haven't got the dog house yet?
Yeah, end of May. That's what I was told.
Coming quick.
What night was
Yeah,
that?
this one.
So June
Friday. 2 days from my
June what?
anniversary.
Friday, June 9th. Yeah, I won't be there. So I'm not sure if anyone is interested in attending.
Where is it?
Stoke Lake.
Inn.
Stoke Lake.
So, you can go have a massage.
We'll be in Morrisville.
It's
next
at the
town up.
Stoke Lake Resort and Spa, Friday, June 9th, 2017, from 5 to 8:30. And it is cocktail hors d'oeuvres, gourmet dinner. So I can let them know if one of you would like to attend or not. You're all busy. So no for you. She said she's busy.
Busy.
Busy, Peter?
I'm not sure. I got a tentative for that weekend.
Alright.
I'm not sure either, so.
I might.
Okay, so.
We'll be up the
let us
road.
know.
We'll be up the road in Morrisville, so.
Peter, trust your anniversary dinner, Dad.
Huh?
Alright, anniversary dinner.
Yeah, take away for anniversary.
There you go. There you go. Going to the Stoke Lake. It's a nice place.
Sorry, hon.
Yeah, take her to dinner and
She's
then
listening,
go.
probably.
Alright, so the last question was V-Trans Bike and Pedestrian Grant. So as you know, we didn't make the cut for the Main Street, which I actually thought in hindsight was probably a good thing, because I'm not sure people would have been happy if we had both ends of town torn up at the same time. So maybe that's not a bad thing. But anyways, there is the V-Trans Bicycle and Pedestrian Grant applications must be received by 1 p.m. Friday, July 14th. And I'm not sure, we might be able to leverage some of this money towards, as a small scale project for the same thing, but to be frank, I don't have time to make the application. So what I'm thinking is what you should just do is wait and then apply for it next year when you apply for the downtown grant again. But it's not a decision for me to make. If you want to do it, then I'll find somebody here to apply to apply for it.
And how much is that grant for?
Well, this would be for, if we were able to go for the small scale, it would be a 50% of the project of state funding. Because they have a scoping study, and that, you know how it is when you get state, it's 3 to 5 years before you get the project done. I was like, for God's sake, that's ridiculous. We just want to take out just do some stuff to this. So the small scale is simple but critical improvements that will increase access, safety of people choosing to bike or walk. Projects will be funded with all state dollars, and they must be small standalone improvements. Awards will be for construction only, and so it says the projects that are likely get approved are crosswalk enhancement, bike lane markings, edging markings, things that address ADA compliance, or critical small gaps in sidewalk network. So we might be a stretch to try to get it. So, but I guess my thought is maybe wait and try to leverage 2 applications at once, this one and the downtown grant at the same time. But because I'm just not sure it's gonna fall. I don't want to. It's not a sure thing, and I don't have the time between now and then to get it in there and then find out it's not quite gonna make it in that one. And we don't want a scoping study because that's just ridiculous. The fact that it should take you 3 to 5 years to do it's crazy.
Yes.
Can I suggest that maybe we hold off on that and do a study of just all the sidewalks and then ADA compliance as opposed to just fixing a part of the street?
Well, we were.
I know that's a bigger thing, but I feel that if you do a part of the street, you can just fix the brick and reset the curbs, then the sidewalks will never get done.
Well, at this point, the sidewalks are in good condition. We know we can't make all the buildings handicap
No, I know.
accessible. We don't have that realm. And this project was also gonna take care of lighting and putting the
Right.
lights up on, so it was a bigger project. But, like I said, I'm just thinking that we should hold off on doing this and try to do 2 grants next year. Because obviously we got turned down for one, so getting this money now isn't gonna help. Because we do need a little bit of engineering work once we figure out what's under there. So.
Right, because the sidewalk on that side seems pretty good, but the one here, there's quite a lot of dips.
Yeah. And in some cases, there may be ways to make some of them ADA accessible if it's possible to do a little height and then come down. It would be part of the engineering that I budgeted for I budgeted $5,000 in engineering for the downtown grant. But we also had got downtown money, a few years in a row. It doesn't surprise me that we didn't.
When the bank moved into where the Bobcat is there, we changed the sidewalk quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that's why that goes up and down.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, so what's underneath there? Or why does it go up and down?
It goes up and down to make it handicap accessible for the.
They tore up the concrete sidewalk,
Reshaped
it, and then poured a new concrete.
That's why it goes up and down so that so you can get in with a wheelchair.
You used to have to step up to get in the building.
Oh, I see, okay.
And for the last thing is Ryan Krishenik has received a United Way of Addison County grant, just like Darla did. You remember a while ago they both applied. But for part of his grant, in order for him to receive the money, he needs a letter of support from the Selectboard in regards to the hub. So with your permission, I'm going to draft something tomorrow. That's basically that the Selectboard recognizes the importance of supporting teens, supporting their mission and staff.
Wonderful.
Yeah. All right.
You got it.
Okay. Looks like you have 2 things for executive session.
Trees, can I just ask, have you guys just checked this tomorrow? I know it's late. It says here 2138 for Brookfield, but this invoice purchase order says 2400 plus or minus.
Well, it's because I didn't know the price.
Right, no, but when I go and add up these things here, these 3, 712.67, and then the 3905, I come up with 2200.
Oh, okay.
So I just,
Okay, here.
if you add up all of
Yeah.
up on that list here, it's more than the 2138.
All right, let me see that. I just gotta put a note beside it so I remember to look. Okay.
Teresa, 1 minute.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.
Okay, I'll make a motion. Motion to enter executive session to discuss the employment of a new town administrator and evaluations of public officers or employees. For 1 VSA, section 313, subsection A, subsection 3.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Did I leave?